Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pro Wrestling World Talks with Dan and Mac.
Well, hey, Scott.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey, Scott.
God, sound a little more excited than that. Jesus Christ.
Oh, come on. I thought I put you over well. Come on.
And the guy with the skull is probably smiling, I assume.
It's the second show. He doesn't mean anything. He's an old man. Fuck him.
I think this is the third show,
I think it's the third, yeah.
Third show, whatever the fuck.
See, I am a fan, and I do respect you, considering the fact I was just like, it's the third time you've been on with us.
Yeah, it's old hat. Yeah, this is it's the guy that sweeps up. We had nobody else. We got the guy that, works the microwave. Yeah. He's coming in.
No, that's not true. We had a writer on last time. But you know how many get?
Oh, God. That's the worst. That's the lowest.
Well, it's one of our writers.
Yeah, one of our writers.
Oh, God.
Nice guy.
Sure.
Yeah, we're off. We're all leaving this in. God, Hudson buries the PWW writers. Live at 11.
That's okay.
That's a great headline.
He's probably buried you and everybody else.
Yeah, the PW Insider guys, that'll be like their top story for days.
Gold standard. Kiss my ass. That's Scott Hudson. Stone Cold, hell no. Screw you.
The Undertaker is overrated, he said. I was like, oh, my.
There we go. That's money.
It got us blocked by Brian Last and Cornette from their group. I was
really
when he posted that, they shared that, and they said, "You're not allowed. No one is allowed to post this page in our group again." And it was Brian Last and Cornette's actual group.
Let me tell you this: I worked with Jimmy. I don't know how many times in my life, a lot, and I love him. Personally and professionally. I think he's wonderful.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. Goddamn. Appreciate the kind words about some. At least you're not going to say anything. But the problem I have is, that goddamn problem I have is your friends with that no good goddamn Vinny Roo. What's that, Scott? What the hell is that bullshit?
You know what? That may have something to do with it. Now that I think about it, but every time I write them or post something on their YouTube channel as a comment, it's deleted. I don't know what the hell. And it's always like, hey, this is a great take. I enjoyed this angle. I mean, it's never, anything. I don't know why I got heat, but I guess I do.
That's where the comment is like the cold shoulder from a man with a little bit too big a shoulder.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
I love Jimmy. I do. I got zero problem with him or Brian, whom I don't know, but I enjoy his work. But boy, every time I write to them or post, it's always gone. It's like I don't exist, and that's okay. Hell, I'm way too old to give a shit about that. But they do probably have, I think, the probably most entertaining podcast on the. In this form, as far as pro wrestling is concerned, they probably have the most entertaining podcast, and because of the personality behind it, because Jim is just—he's incredible. He really is perfect for this medium.
Yeah, he can he can sell just about anything.
He really can. He's perfect, and he's met, I think, the perfect. Just when you think his career just can't reach a high again, it's just like, oh, Booker of Ring of Honor, it's another real creative high. Oh. All of his stuff with Smoky Mountain, then you just look of the quality of work that he has done in the last 15 years in this medium.
Well, he's the number one podcast ridiculous.
Right now. He's damn well should be. And it's like, and I'm saying that, and of course, we're just trying to get a fight in the game. We're just trying to get a market share at this, and people have a choice to go.
We want to be the 1414th podcast.
Congratulations.
Maybe I want to do better than Kevin Scampoli, right? Somebody like that, or some other people that maybe are more controversial and maybe have maybe do more tactics on the Bubba the Love Sponge level. But at the same time, do we really need...
My stomach actually turned when you mentioned Bubba the Love Sponge.
Well, that's the guy I have to go
turned a little bit.
Because I'm not going to bash Opie and Anthony, considering they were an influence. And I'm not going to bash Howard Stern either in his prime, because he was an influence.
So, he got a woman to orgasm by blowing into a microphone and having her sit on a speaker. That is a Golden Glove moment.
Private Parts is
Cornette did that?
Bible.
No, Howard Stern.
Or who?
Howard Stern did that.
Oh, Stern. Okay.
Yeah,
Cornette
he had a woman sit on a
so.
speaker, and then he did vibration sounds into the microphone and apparently got her off.
Now, see, that is the ultimate work. I mean, when you think, well, you know, Vampiro threw Sting off a 4-story scaffold in Denver.
Oh, my God, what a load of shit.
You know, that's a work that people like, okay, that didn't happen. And people still believe that Stern did that. I'd sooner believe Cornette did that.
I think everybody knew that was bullshit when they saw Sting in the background getting a cup of coffee. Like, everybody was just like, come on. Like, that was so obvious. It's just like, you just see Sting waving in the background with a cup of coffee. Yeah, it's a double. Like,
yeah, no way I'm taking that bump.
Fuck you. Like, I'm not doing that. I make Sting money for a reason. Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like he shouldn't have taken that bump either. Like, it's just, that was completely, absolutely ridiculous, that even thought process of like, oh, we're just going to light this guy on fire and everybody's going to know it's Sting, right? It's like, no.
Well, he wasn't going to take severe bumps until he went to AEW. That's when the big ones come.
Well, exactly.
That's a good point. That's true.
Yeah,
Sting is incredible. I am, as I sit here as a 60-year-old man who's been in the sport, son of a gun, 36 years, I won't badmouth Sting.
I can't either.
I don't know who could.
I can't.
And it's incredible.
Who could badmouth Sting? What bad could you say about him? I mean, he worked great in matches. He tried to help. He helped the people around him. He had a hell of a memorable career. And instead of signing with the Big Devil, he tried to keep TNA afloat for what, better part of a decade? Well, most of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Jesus.
I agree. I'm not going to badmouth Sting. No way.
He always tried.
I remember going to a Clash of the Champions as a mark in like the late 80s after Crockett had bought out Watts, you know, in like 87 or 88, they did a Clash. And Sting was there doing like autographs before the show. And I go like over from my hometown in Tifton over to Albany, Georgia. And I got Sting's autograph on something. I'm waiting in line. It's the old like AJ Lee talking to Lita, whatever bullshit. And I said, hey, Sting, can you sign this? It was free. You know, no, didn't cost anything. And I just said, hey, Sting, let me tell you. Titan's not the way, brother. And he said, I know. I'll never forget that.
Titan didn't work for him, brother?
Yeah, he didn't work. Yeah, that's right. That was actually, you know, the Hulk line from Mythology from 20 years later. He was like, I know. Titan's not the way.
Yeah.
Even when he went, they fumbled it.
Sure they did.
Like, even when he went, they fumbled it. It's just like because, I mean, I don't know how it would have gone now with Triple H is the creative head of things. But still, because I don't think he really has any grudges. And I think he has accepted more of professional wrestling history than anything.
I think he'd be there for Luger if AEW would let him.
Oh, yeah, without question.
Whether or not they should is another matter.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, that's a toss-up. Like, I understand the concept of why you don't want him to go, but also at the same time, you want to be able to kind of acquiesce to someone that has had a massive impact on this industry and on the career of Lex Luger as well. So it's one of those things of you kind of don't want to defy history, but also at the same time, why do I want to do that place any favors right now?
Nah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. In the words of Rodney King, why can't we all just get along?
Wow. Holy moly. Now, see, you make that reference, and do you guys I know you do. That was like 30 years ago.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I watched something like some YouTube video of like the craziest shit that's ever been on live television or whatever, and they mentioned the Rodney King riots from back, God, what was it, 93?
Yeah. 92.
And I'm thinking like, I don't remember that. That was 92?
Yeah. There's long form.
Yeah, I wonder if they listed Tommy Cooper's death in that, because that went out on live TV.
Oh, that.
Who was that?
The magician.
You mentioned like the wildest
one.
thing you ever seen on live TV. Tommy Cooper, a comedian, died on live TV. And
the British guy.
I've seen that compilation. Yeah,
seen the clip.
Stage and he fell through the curtain. Jesus Christ,
that's about as wild as shit as you ever see. I mean, there's a couple things in WWE that come close, but fortunately they didn't.
Yeah. And everybody thought it was a work, and they're laughing and popping for the guy dying on stage because he was a goof. Yeah, that was bad.
That was a boy who cried wolf type situation, and
that's true.
It's unfortunate because it's like this is a real situation, and his job was just to make you laugh, and this is his whole gimmick. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's what ended up killing him. But
I mean, I don't know how old you guys are, but it was like Chevy Chase in the first couple of years of Saturday Night when he was doing Gerald Ford, who like his gimmick was he would fall all over the desk, fall over the chair, fall over the stairs on the way to the plane. And that's what happened to Tommy Cooper. Was it looked like he was just taking a bump, and then he died. That's wild.
Of the three of us here, you're the one with the most wrestling chops, so you could probably tell me what you think about Chevy Chase's bumps, because I think they look dangerous when he was doing all that.
He's insane. No, I agree. I agree absolutely, David, because if you remember, Chevy Chase ended up having, for a while, something of a pain pill addiction.
Yeah.
And it was from the bumps he took without any protection or without really being given direction from a stunt coordinator about how to take the bump and where to land and how to land, that he just fell. And, back up until the mid 80s, I think he still had some sort of pill problem from the bumps he took on a Saturday night. And not afterwards. It's not like today in 2025, he's got a pill problem. He doesn't. But, that
he's miserable.
Bumps. So his bumps were great.
Absolutely miserable.
Yeah, he's still kind of not
always been
a horrific guy, but it's not from the pills. But, his bumps back then were amazing because he didn't protect himself at all. Jesus Christ. I felt bad for him. And back then, I'm like 10, 11, 12 years old, and I'm thinking, I didn't know anything about the business or taking bumps or anything, and I'm like, Jesus, he's really hurt. Christ, he just fell off a 6-foot ladder to the floor. How was he not hurt?
Working like Harley Race. Like, what are you doing?
I think the one that got him was he fell over I read somewhere in an interview he gave, the one that got him was when he fell over the podium when they were doing the debate skit with whoever was doing Reagan or whatever. No, whoever was doing Ford. No, he was Ford. It was whoever was doing Carter. So it's been a while since I watched the DVDs.
Dan Aykroyd, yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while since I watched the DVDs. I got them on DVDs. They got lost in a fire. It wasn't even my fire. I loaned it to somebody else, and their house.
They're all on Peacock now, I think.
Yeah. Well, as soon as the wrestling goes from Peacock, I'm going from Peacock.
Yeah, they'll probably up on Netflix, which is why they have started their WCW Vault channel and also their WWE Vault channel, because they think a lot of back catalog stuff is probably not going to transfer over to wherever they're going to go,
including stuff like Great American Bash '96.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is
very nice transition.
Very good transition.
That is late 70s, early 80s segue. That's perfect.
Yes, because everybody's thinking, have they lost the plot? It's like, no. It's just like, this is how things start sometimes, folks.
Yeah. Somehow Chevy Chase gets the Great American Bash.
Yes.
I mean, this is kind of a weird show, in the sense of too that this is also a symbol of this is kind of it for one generation of WCW, because within a month things are going to look vastly.
Not just WCW, but wrestling.
Wrestling is going to change within weeks, and it's kind of like you have the King of the Ring promo with Austin, and then all of a sudden, like within 2 weeks, you have the start of the world kind of changing. And it's just like
WCW first, because WWF drug its ass for another 6 months, in my opinion.
It did, but you could sense that things were starting to change.
Yeah.
And you definitely knew that with WCW, things were, holy shit, things have changed. But with WWE, it was just like, okay, things seem to be going in a much different direction now. But, Sean was still on top, so you didn't know.
So, before we get too far involved in the show, for our fans watching, I was curious, what exactly were you doing on the Great American Bash that night? Just for anyone viewing who doesn't know.
Me?
Yeah, sorry.
I had been around at that point Bash was what? June 96?
Yeah. Yes.
So I had been around for about 6 months. It was the end of 95 when I got called, and I started in January 96, but they had nothing for me to do. I was just learning. I was doing the best way to describe it is I was doing internet broadcast without the internet. I mean, I was with like Chad Damiani and Jeremy Borash and Bob Ryder and those guys, learning how to be a part of a broadcast team. And somewhere out there, although I'm sure it's not recorded, there is a broadcast, a play-by-play of me doing play-by-play, and I think, God, maybe Chad Damiani doing color of this show. And I don't know that it's recorded. In fact, I just bet the farm it's not. But just learning. At this point, I was there. I was in Baltimore, and I was still just in training, as it were. We were recording shows, maybe some international syndication shows in post-production there at the Techwood Drive Studios. But other than being there, I remember setting up like an announce position backstage. It was like we were at ringside, but all we had was like monitors, like we're doing now. And that was just getting me ready to eventually become some kind of on-camera talent. Talent, of course, being subjective.
You should give yourself more credit. I thought you were good.
Well, thanks. I'll take it. But I remember that it was an incredible show, and it was, my God, like you said earlier, both of you guys, that it was when the business changed. I mean, between this show and we're not talking about Bash at the Beach, but Bash at the Beach in another month, and then what the WWF was doing at the time. You look back at 1996, it's difficult to find another year in the evolution of the business when things changed more substantively in such a short period of time than the calendar year of 96. Maybe 89 was, with Flair and Steamboat, then Flair and Funk, and, the WWF moving toward Ultimate Warrior as being the number one babyface. And 89 was big. 96 was bigger. And because 96 ended up leading to what happened in 2001, which was when the WWF then won the war. But God, it was a fun ride, man. As I look back now, again, I'm 60. I'm long past being anything important in this business if I ever was. But boy, 96 was a fun ride. Every day. 1996, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. That was a hell of a fun ride. And this was, if you think about going to like an amusement park and you get on the big roller coaster, like King Dakar at Cedar Point or whatever, and you take that first, and you got the chain that just takes forever to get you to the top before you do that vertical drop, and then you're gone for like 3 minutes and you don't know what's coming next. 96 was that rise on the roller coaster.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, well, then I guess we're done for the night. That was a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Well, it was nice knowing you. Catch you next time.
It really was. It really was. Like, it really was. You look back at 1996, and as far as you could tell, too, early on, I'll go back to what was going on with the WWF, for instance, with Shawn Michaels as champion, where the work rate had kind of changed.
Yeah, seriously.
And things had just so WWF, as far as their in-ring competition, was just like, okay, things are getting a little like they're starting to become more of what WCW was, because if you look back at the first 4 months of WCW, you had the tremendous Dungeon of Doom angle, which led to that Doomsday Cage match on Uncensored, which
God Almighty,
a masterpiece, just an absolute classic. I think
the Legion of Doom had a street fight that was pretty good, but that's about as far as that show ever goes. Ugh.
I can't remember a really good Uncensored until probably the ending of 97 when Sting came out and attacked the NWO, because I felt like 95 you had the tremendous strap match between Hulk Hogan and Vader, where Ric Flair
that was
ended up being dragged around.
That was
Uncensored 95.
I think the strap match was super. I thought the strap match was Super Brawl.
No, it was Sting. It was Hogan and Vader, and neither one of them wanted to do the job, so they just put the strap on Flair.
Stop the presses. That's news.
It's like they're doing this match. Do they understand that neither one of them are going to want to lose to each other? Like, my God.
Yeah, I just don't get the impression that they liked each other very much at all. Especially at the
you know what? That was two guys that you're right, David. That they didn't like each other at all, but they didn't like anybody.
No,
period.
They really didn't.
Hogan liked Brutus, and that was it. Vader didn't like anybody. Period.
They were both Inoki guys.
Yeah, I heard Linda said Hogan liked Brutus. I wonder about that.
Jesus Christ! Allegedly,
allegedly.
I
didn't say anything. I just said
every podcast is talking about it now, so I'm going to leave it in. But allegedly, I have no idea. Look, I'm a Hulkamaniac, so it's just like I got to put that out there. So I don't want like Terry to come after me. It's just like, look at brother. Like, it can't happen. Like, it's sacrilegious. I think I'm wearing a Hulkamania hoodie right now. So, come on.
Yeah, he's met Hogan. Well, Scott obviously met Hogan. I haven't. Mac, have you?
He worked with him.
I have not, no.
So, our 2 for 2 for who's actually met Hogan. How about that?
Yes. 2 for 4. But,
yeah, fuck you.
Sorry.
God, if we're going to turn this into a Bash Hulk Hogan show, this is going to be the first 7-hour version of this show you guys have ever done.
I think we could probably, it could probably go longer. I think also too, there's probably, I want to hear stories. I want to hear stories, but at the same time, it's just like, I don't want to get sued.
Well, now, I'll tell you this. As I worked with Hulk when we were in WCW. Obviously, I wasn't in the WWE at the time, but I can't give you any bad stories about Hulk. I can't, because I never interacted with him. Period. I mean, I was an announcer. I was unimportant. Forget the fact that I wasn't Tony or Mike or Mark or Legend or Brain or Gino or anybody like that. It doesn't matter my strata in the announcer roster. I was an announcer, period. Hulk didn't interact with me. It just didn't happen. That's what kind of person he was. He interacted with whoever he was working with. Brutus, of course. And then if he's working with Sting, he interacted with Sting, working with Flair, et cetera, with Kevin Sullivan, who we'll get to when we talk about the show.
Jimmy Hart, obviously.
I'm sorry?
Jimmy Hart, obviously, according to Cornette.
Of course, Jimmy Savage. But if Hulk didn't interact with you in the ring or in the booking, he didn't interact with you, period. I think one time in, holy moly, 6 years that I was there, that I interacted with Hulk, and I walked past him backstage and I said, all right, Hulk, let's go make some money. And he just like, was it.
He barked at you.
So if I can't tell you that I met him, that, Hulk and I were big buds. We talked all the time. We were like, that I wasn't worthy of his time. Now, he'll probably find a way to sue me for that, but I don't give a shit. Do what you want. But the fact that he didn't talk to me because I was only an announcer, he'll probably sue me and say, you were never employed by WCW.
Brother.
I don't remember you, so you must be lying.
Yeah.
Hogan remembers he was in Metallica, so I wonder about Hogan's memory.
I think this is the nicest thing you've...
And we just lost George Foreman, who only got to be famous and rich from Hulk missing the phone call to be the spokesmodel of the George Foreman Grill. If he hadn't been on the road to go get his kids from school, he would have gotten that gig, and the world would have been different.
I'll tell you what, my mom had a George Foreman grill, and we could cook a mean-ass cheeseburger on that thing. That thing was great for burgers.
I 100% agree. It was a wonderful grill. A Hulk Hogan grill, I don't want to know about that. It wouldn't take dumps. It wouldn't do the job. It wouldn't over burgers. I don't know.
Just wouldn't put over the meat.
It wouldn't put over the meat. That's true. That's great. That's perfect.
I just don't understand why you still have to work the gimmick after 40 years of being in people's kind of thought process.
Because he has nothing else. What do you think, he's going to go out and start a business?
Yeah, this is probably how he makes money.
Concrete or, put up sheetrock? No, he can't do anything else.
It's just all these, every single time he's doing an interview, he either doubles down on something that he's already said that we know is bullshit, or he comes out with something again where you're just like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I think
he legitimately has a bad memory, though, because there's a few lies that don't make sense. Like, he once claimed that he won the title at WrestleMania 1, and that doesn't make sense to even make up a lie about.
No.
So I suspect his memory is actually faulty.
There's a video out there, to bring it full circle, David, there's a video out there of Jimmy and Brian going through, and it's like an hour long.
Yes, I've watched it.
Gotten millions of views.
So. One of his most popular videos.
Yes.
That's
it made Cornette money.
I watched that. If I'm like out on the lake and I need something to be, I'm not going to listen to, classic rock. I'm going to listen to Jimmy and Brian going over Hulk Hogan's lies driving around the lake. And it's ridiculous. The thing about Harley Race, oh my God, the George Foreman grill, and Elvis being a Hulkamaniac. That's one of my favorite
Elvis was a
ones.
Lawler
That
fan,
Elvis
from what I understand.
loved to come to the Mid-South Coliseum to see Hulk wrestle. You know,
I always
and
heard that
Hulk
Elvis
still-
actually liked Lawler when it come to wrestlers.
Yeah.
Which I met. I met Jerry Lawler over last February. He was great. He was really nice to my kid. He drew her a picture.
He's incredible. Jerry Lawler, and here in 2025, I'm so glad he's still with us.
Same.
Jerry Lawler,
Same.
by however you define worker, is one of the best workers of all time. If you can say like, oh, well, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit that we'll get to later, or Kenny Omega or Will Ospreay or any of those guys, and we just went cross-generational, who's the best worker? Jerry Lawler's in that discussion because how you define work is do people believe instead of how many flips and dives can you do?
No, it's true. I've always thought Lawler has been, considering the fact of what he was able to do with Andy Kaufman. And the work also he did with Terry Funk.
Sure.
Which I think was Meltzer's one of the first 5-star matches that he ever did, which he ever rated, which I'm not going by his rating whatsoever, but his matches with Terry Funk were really incredible.
Some of the empty arena match.
Oh, ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Ahead of its time.
My
Islands.
I remember he was also great on commentary with those one-liners. I just finished watching a recent wrestling show. I think it might have actually been Mania, and Stephanie McMahon takes a bump where she's put over the rope, and Jerry Lawler goes, "Oh no, her chest." JR's like, her chest.
Her chest.
I'll tell you what, guys.
Our chest.
You can ask my wife, who might come walking in here at some point, if I'm laying around and I got nothing to do, which is rare, and I watch wrestling, the first thing I go to is Old Memphis.
Oh yeah.
And so if you watch Old Memphis, it's always Lawler. Whether it's Eddie Gilbert and Missy Hyatt wrecking the Renegade Rampage trivia contest, or Lawler and Kaufman, or Lawler versus Idol and Rich in the cage, or Lawler and Jeff Jarrett against the Moondogs. And I watched the entire career versus career of Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee in '86. I watched that literally today just to kill some time while I was walking around the house. That promotion and that man was amazing. Amazing. Exactly what wrestling should be. If you're looking for something to watch, go find Old Memphis from the late 70s through the 80s. Just perfect stuff.
I don't know, I've liked what I've found before. I found a Lawler vs. Savage match once. It was freaking fantastic.
Oh, my God. When Savage finally got brought in, because they've been doing this worked angle in the IWA that Savage and his dad, Angelo Poffo, have been doing up in Kentucky, and they would like show up at the house shows, and the Memphis guys would no-sell them. And then they finally worked out a deal, and when that finally blew up, like 77, 78, God, that was amazing stuff. They were so good. So good.
I think my favorite matches with Lawler is anything with him and Bockwinkel.
Yeah.
They just because Bockwinkel at one point just said, fine, you want to do a rematch, it's going to cost you $500 a punch. Like, because he was just tired. He was just like, every time I have to face you, I'd be sipping my food through a straw for a month every time I face you, because all you do is punch me in the face. And he's just like, the next time I face you, it's going to cost you $500 a punch. And that, just stuff like that was just, nobody really thinks of it like that anymore. Like nobody, because back then people were just like, oh my God, Lawler can't punch him now, or it's just going to cost. He's just going to go broke because he's going to punch Bockwinkel now. There's no stakes. There's no stakes for these guys anymore because everybody's just like, everybody knows how much everybody's making. It's public knowledge.
Right.
It has to come out in forms.
You think of that angle. I remember that when Lawler and when they did that angle in the Mid-South, Lawler draws back to punch and the people are popping just from the draw, because they know that Lawler's going to punch him and it's going to cost him $500. And he no-sells it, and then Nick blocks it, and it's perfect. And they're no offense to Nick or Jerry, but they're not doing anything.
Right.
They're pretending to work, and the people are popping. That's just perfect. I do remember. This is still, you guys will know. I got a man named Jack Briscoe who was All-American amateur wrestler at the University of Oklahoma. NWA champion back in the 70s and kept it going until the mid 80s when he would work anybody. I mean, whether he was in Florida, Georgia, Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, wherever he was working, he would tell whoever he's working, do whatever you want, but don't hit me. And he would point to his face, don't hit me in my moneymaker.
Yeah.
Because he was a good looking guy.
Right.
He could go find paramours and partners for the night, let's just say. So don't hit me in my face. Just hit me anywhere you want, but don't hit me in my moneymaker. I just thought that was one of the great lines ever.
I heard probably one of my favorite stories of him dropping the NWA title. Because back then it was the committee that made the decision when he was going to, when somebody was going to drop the championship.
Right.
And he just walked in one day and just said, get somebody in here. I'm fucking done. Like he just walked it. Like he went beyond the committee. He went to the, I think it might've been Eddie Graham because Graham was the president at the time. And he just walked in and he says, I'm done. Get Terry Funk in here. I'm done. I just want to lose it tonight because he was cracked because that schedule was just absolutely ridiculous.
It was.
The only one that could do it was Flair, because Flair would still be doing it if he could.
Flair was psycho and he loved it too much.
I mean, as we sit here in 2025 and Flair is what? 74, 75, pushing 75 years old?
Yeah.
He would be NWA world champion now if there was still a territory system. He'd be begging for it. He was tailor-made for that. Jack was, Jack wanted to homestead in Florida. He lived there. He lived in Tampa. He had the business, and he wanted to work Tampa and or Florida rather, and he could make a great living there. And Flair, it didn't matter. He's in Tampa Mondays, in Atlanta Tuesdays, in Dallas Wednesdays, in L.A. Thursdays, and Chicago Friday. He's in Tokyo Saturday and Sunday. It didn't matter to him. That's what he wanted. That was Flair's gimmick. That's why Flair. You can look at what happens in between the ropes and between the bells and say Flair's the best of all time, and it's arguable. But when it came to everything about the business, working, promos, psychology, but then being able to handle the stressors of being world champion. That's one of those things that Flair doesn't get enough credit for, is he did it when nobody else could, including Jack, or including, hell, Terry or Dory. Harley couldn't do it. Harley liked homesteading in St. Louis, and, he did a lot, and then he finally gave up. But Flair was begging for it. Every time there was an opening, Flair will do it, then we'll figure it out later.
I think he just sums up the early WCW booking right there. Yeah, like the first 3 years of WCW in a nutshell.
Well, they had to do it. The famous one, and probably the one I still say is probably one of the greatest stories ever that in 1993 was Starrcade. Was him and it was supposed to be Sid and Vader, and then Sid had the problem in Europe with Arn. Yeah. And
yikes.
Scissor be timbers. And we have at this point where they need someone to face Vader, so they make the decision. Oh well, we're in Charlotte. Let's just have Flair do it.
Sure.
But it turned out to be like a masterpiece. It turned out to be
extremely important going forward.
It really was.
But Flair, you got one half of your back to the beach main event right there in place.
Yep.
I heard Hogan had watched that match too, and that was kind of his thought process. And yeah, maybe it's the right time to go because, Flair's everybody. He just became champion. It's believable. It's not Vader, so I don't have to face him yet. Like, it all goes back to that. But that also kind of gets us to the point where we are now because we're headed to mid 96. Everything from 93, 94, 95 is all kind of leading to this. And this is kind of where the transition, that book is about to change. Like you think of Lord Steven Regal was a big part of 93, WCW 94, 95, 96. And then all of a sudden, this is kind of he's up against Sting in this card. So it's kind of like this is his last real kind of main event, semi-main event push, at least in WCW. Because he goes to WWE at one point. He has issues there. And then I think 3 years later, he's doing that Bash at the Beach Junkyard gauntlet match. Whatever the hell that was.
That was... It looked like the B-side of one of those... it looked like the B-side of a Roger Corman film.
The B-side of a film?
Roger Corman's film specifically. I don't know if you follow old filming, but in the 60s and 70s, Roger Corman was like big in the B and technically C movies.
It kind of reminded me of Death Wish 3, except Charles Bronson was in them.
If Charles Bronson was in it, that whole thing would have been 100% better.
It would have been.
Last night, my wife and I watched the entirety of Monster A Go-Go, which was not good. That's an understatement.
Fair enough, too.
Oh, God. Watch it. It's terrible. That's right up there with Sting and Davey Boy, Sid, Rob Parker, and Vader at the beach when the midget blows up the boat.
Oh, my God.
It makes that look like Citizen Kane. It's terrible.
What was... what do you feel like was worse? White Castle of Fear.
Actually, I would love a White Castle. Somebody call DoorDash. Can you get some White Castle?
I have a White Castle in my area.
It's been a while since I had that.
It'll be a while again after you have it once.
Yeah, it's like it's that fast food. It's just like this doesn't agree with me. I don't think I'm going to have this ever again.
The sad part is I live in Georgia. I'm a native Georgian. I live in the Lake Country. I love it here, but we don't have White Castle at all. And the closest White Castle was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where my wife went to graduate school. So I would go see her when she was in graduate school, and I'd be like, okay, at least I get White Castle. And then they closed that one down. So now the closest White Castle is in, hell, like Roanoke. I'm not driving up there.
I'm gonna go to White. I'm gonna drive all the way to Roanoke, Virginia to get White Castle.
I'm not interested. I got too much going on. 14 hours round trip to get White Castle? No.
That would be quite the trip to do.
Harold and Kumar did it. That was just New Jersey.
There you go.
But they got paid to do it. It was a movie.
Right. Good point.
I thought it was a shoot. Come on. I thought it was a documentary. What the fuck, Dave? What are you doing out here just ruining my dreams over here?
Killing kayfabe.
Yeah, come on, man. So, who would have thunk it if you ever ask me, that Fire and Ice and the Steiner brothers were going to lead off a WCW pay-per-view. Like, I'm just looking at that, and I'm like, isn't that something I would see on Saturday night? Like,
well, the thing is, back in the day, back when this show aired, the Steiners versus Scott Norton and anybody would have been a big deal in Japan.
right.
So it should have been a big deal here. But then, and when you see this match laid out on the lineup for the show, you think, okay, well, Ice Train's going under. And then they pin Norton.
Yeah.
You know, why? No offense to Ice Train, Harold Hogue, who's a nice guy and big as got a barn and not terrible, despite what people think. He wasn't awful, but he wasn't a name. So they put this match together, and then they pinned Norton, who was a name in Japan.
Yeah.
And could have been. I didn't understand that at all.
I
went back and watched the show in preparation, like the first show out. I'm like, why in the hell are they pinning Norton?
I was always surprised that Scott Norton didn't go on the bigger, better things after WCW fell, because he seems to have the type. He seems to have the type that make Vince kind of salivate. I mean, he can speak, he's big, he can move. Shit. What could you want?
I'm 100% with you. I mean, I got no problem. Well, number one, I got no problem with Rick or Scott, and I got no problem with Norton and Train. They were all great guys. They were easy to work with.
And yeah, he had that drill sergeant promo style, but it's fine.
But the money was with Norton, not with Ice Train, and they put him under. I didn't understand that.
Yeah. I don't get it really. I don't really get it either. But it is whatever happened to. I mean, Scott Norton was around WCW for a while, but I don't really remember Ice Train very much after '96. Do you remember what happened to him?
Stayed around, did a couple of jobs on Nitro, but that was about it. And he passed away. What, a couple of years ago? You know, it hadn't been that long, but it's.
I got the wiki. I can find out.
2024. He passed away in 2024. But again, a good guy, local guy from here in Atlanta. I just didn't understand why. No offense to Ice Train, but why they put Norton under here? I didn't understand it. Great match, nothing wrong with it. But you're going to get Rick and Scott in there. It's going to be tough. But you're in there against Norton and Train, who are they're not amateur superstars, but they're tough guys. So that was a good match. I had no problem with it.
I kind of felt like that maybe they were trying to build Fire and Ice, but then suddenly they lose, and it's like, what's up? What's up with that? You know?
Yeah, that would have been one, especially think about it, guys. That is the first match of the show. There would have been nothing wrong with working some kind of schmoz finish to build up both teams. And Rick and Scott would have done what they were told. They were team players, especially with two guys like this. They weren't working, whatever Magnum Force or whatever that other bullshit was, but they would have. But I didn't understand the booking here at all. If you're going to put Rick and Scott over, okay, but put them over Scott, why? I didn't get it.
Yeah. I think the next match was Conan versus El Gato. I mean, do you remember who El Gato even was? Because
El Gato was Pat Tanaka.
What?
Yeah, it's Pat Tanaka.
Yeah, who was a NWA Tag Team Champion with Paul Diamond, was part of the Orient Express in the WWE. His dad owned part of Florida. With Hiro Matsuda and Louise, Eddie Graham. Pat Tanaka was a legacy man in the business. So
I feel stupid.
was
no, it's Pat Tanaka under a mask.
Yeah,
I feel stupid. I didn't know it was Pat Tanaka under a mask. I know Pat Tanaka.
Yeah, and the thing is, Pat Tanaka meant something. This was 1996. Unless there was something like, we've got plans for Pat Tanaka, so let's put him under a mask, well, that'd have been fine. But they didn't. They have Pat Tanaka come in and work, and Pat Tanaka's incredible as a worker, and so is Conan. Amazing guy. This is for the U.S. Championship. That, and then they bring in Tanaka as Elgato and then put him under. God, it was Pat Tanaka. Why? Unless you had plans for him to come in and join the Lucha contingent, something. They didn't. Didn't understand it.
They were trying to. It did seem like they were trying to build Conan, and I think I very much agree with that because
Sure.
Conan was great. I don't even think he got to his fullest potential what he could in the United States, but he was awesome for what he got.
Yeah, I agree.
He was awesome here.
Yeah, I love Conan. Love Conan as a person. Hanging out with him and talking to him and working with him, and especially as a competitor. I got no problem with Conan going over. I just didn't understand why do this to Tanaka, but whatever.
I'm glad they got away from that superhero look though, and got him like a year or two later. They had him more like one of them Latin gangsters, and that was a much better look for him.
I agree, 100%. Yeah.
I mean, it's still better than I forget what they called it in WWF. I think it was like a Moonraker or something. He was like this.
He was Max. Was it Max Moon?
Yeah,
Max Moon.
Yeah, I was confusing it with a James Bond villain. Whatever, but
Almighty.
But yeah.
And there was another name. He was called something else. Before he was Max Moon. Let me look. It was the Comet Kid.
Yeah.
He was the Comet Kid for like 2 tapings. And then they changed that to Max Moon. And I think he may not even have worked TV as Max Moon before they put the gimmick on Paul Diamond, who was Pat Tanaka's tag team partner in the AWA.
But he was there long enough, according to Bret Hart, to teach Bret Hart the sharpshooter. That's what Bret Hart said in his book.
Oh, that's
Conan
true.
taught him.
Yes, Conan did teach him that move.
But Conan going over, I thought was great, and I think he was U.S. champion at the time. Let me double check.
Yes, he was.
I got on my notes.
Yes.
Yep.
He was.
And
yes.
Honestly, it was one of the more memorable U.S. title runs. I think was Conan with it.
No, I have zero problem with Conan. He transitioned his character from this to where at the end he's with the Filthy Animals with Ray Jr. and with Kidman, I think, of all people.
Yep.
And then when we all go to TNA, or not all, but a good many of us go to TNA, he's with the 3 Live Crew.
It was great in TNA.
Brian James and Ron Killings. Those are all, Conan's terrific.
As far as the allegedly aging veterans, if you want to call them that went to TNA, Conan was one of the ones that was putting his ass into it. It was really awesome.
He was terrific. No problem with Conan at all. None.
All right. Dan looks like he rose from the grave. What happened?
I have no idea. It's just literally like I haven't had internet problems in months, especially since I had everything hardwired. And all of a sudden it's just like, and it blipped out, and I was just about to reset my modem, which would have taken longer. But then all of a sudden it went right back to blue. I'm like, what the hell? But of course it's when I'm doing this, because when me and Mac are just recording our episodes every week, no problems whatsoever. Everything's been fine recently. And now all of a sudden Scott's on, and I'm like, oh, great. An important guest on. And I just, great.
Well,
fucking great.
He told us what we finished talking about the Steiner Brothers match and then the Conans. And just talk about how Ice Train just kind of disappeared after doing a little bit of job work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He because I don't remember much of him after this. Scott Norton, of course, of course, he went on to have a really kind of, even now, people look at Scott Norton, they're just like, because of everything that happened with Too Cold Scorpio, his North Korea situation, which, good Lord.
Well, I mentioned earlier that I was thoroughly amazed that Scott Norton never wound up in WWE with a major run because he's large, he can promo, he's all that stuff. And Vince is like, nah.
Yeah, that was very surprising. You're right. I thought Scott Norton would have met, and if he was around in like 1986, 1987 WWF, he might have been like a top mid-carder or somebody that was going to challenge Hogan at some point.
His voice, I liked it. I'm not criticizing in that respect, but his voice was so unusual for as a promo. It reminds me of like a drill sergeant a little bit, and maybe a little bit of I don't know. Yeah, no, not quite like Sergeant Slaughter. Sergeant Slaughter is different. It's his voice like bounces, like it's vibrating excessively, but like it's great though. It works.
I'll tell you this, I've worked with Scott, but I can't say that I know him at all. But as I've seen interviews with him over the years, I got the impression that Scott did not want to be tied down to something like what the WWF was requiring of their talent back then.
I might explain it.
I'm sorry.
That's why Bam Bam. I said that might explain a lot because that is why Bam Bam didn't get a longer run in the company.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's a terrific analogy. That Scott wanted to be able to do what he wanted, when he wanted to, and he was over like crazy in Japan. And this was back in the day when Japan you could go over there for half the year and make more than most guys would make in a year and a half in the United States. And he wanted to be able to do that. So maybe that was it. Scott Norton's not a stupid guy. He's one of those Minnesota guys. I don't know if he's an Eddie Sharkey trainee, but he's cut from that same cloth and from that same school, so to speak. So I would think that might be more to do with it than Vince not wanting him or not seeing anything in him, is that Scott just didn't want to do it. That he wanted to be able to keep his freedom. Kind of like Brody.
Yeah. I was pulling up the cage match records, and don't the marks get offended. I'm looking at the cage match, but post WCW, the majority of his career is either working with New Japan or All Japan, and a couple smaller Japanese promotions, and I guess a couple stateside, but mostly Japan. Looks like he spent most of the better part of 20 years after WCW folded in Japan. His last match.
That makes sense.
He was IWGP champion at one point.
Yeah. Yes.
So I mean, he had a very kind of top tier career. So nothing to really.
Probably imagine himself as kind of a Stan Hansen. Is probably what his career aspiration was.
That's good. I said Brody earlier, but I think Hansen is a better analogy. I agree.
Yeah.
I loved Hansen when he was in WCW in like the early 90s. He was fantastic.
I love Hansen anywhere.
Yeah,
anything you come across with him. I mean, including that time when he almost killed Bruno. Yikes! Broke his neck and lariat.
Broke his neck. Yeah.
It was actually a scoop slam. It wasn't the.
It wasn't a lariat.
Yeah, it wasn't a lariat. He hit him with a body slam. That's what did it. But Bruno told him, he's just like, tell everybody it was the lariat because it'll get it over.
Yeah, that's perfect sense. Good idea. I think we talked about the Conan match earlier. I wanted to talk about how awesome Marcus Bagwell is as a wrestler, and how much, like, I've gotten so used to late WCW Marcus Bagwell that I didn't even recognize him at first when I was watching the show a couple days ago for this. I was like, who's that guy? And I look at him, oh shit, it's Bagwell.
Yep.
He changed so much. What's your
I think Mark Bagwell gets a bad rep, and he's had issues. I'm not gonna sugarcoat what's happened to Mark over the years, but what he's done with his career and how he's changed his character, how he's changed his work rate, over however they were booking him. This was a guy that was part of the American Males, for God's sakes, with Scotty Riggs.
American Males. And
he's with the Patriot as whatever, Stars and Stripes, and he's with Too Cold Scorpio, and then he comes in, he's working singles with Paige, like on the show we're talking about, and then he's with the NWO as Buff the Stuff. The guy's incredible, and I say that in full disclosure that I'm still friends with him. I'm in communication with him, and Mark and I started in the business the same night at the Alpharetta Auction Barn in Alpharetta, Georgia in 1989. First time I had ever been in a locker room or on a show was the same night Mark had worked a television program. This was in 1989. So I'm not unbiased. I just like the guy personally and professionally. We've been our careers have kind of mirrored each other. Holy cats, 36 years. So, but I agree with what David said. He's kind of a chameleon, kind of like, maybe not to the extent as Scotty Levy as Raven, who's been a million different characters, right. But Mark has done similar, that every time he shows up, he's a different guy, he's a different character. And you go back and look at that Dark Side of the Ring episode about Mark and his family. It didn't come naturally, and it didn't come easy for him. And I stand to suffer the slings and arrows of you guys, but I like Mark, and of course I love Paige. He's incredible.
Oh yeah,
we can talk about Paige.
You're not
going to
get any
St. Dallas,
but this was a really good match.
From me. Yeah, you're not getting any slings and arrows from me regards to Bagwell, because I'm not saying he had the best match on a lot of cards, but I never remember watching a bad one either. And I've watched most of the WCW pay-per-views about 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago, even the Russo era. But
oh boy,
yeah, him and Scott Steiner were really entertaining.
Yeah,
they were really entertaining tandem. So it's like I can't really kind of write off Bagwell's career. This match, though, was really... It wasn't something I expected from Bagwell. It wasn't something I sat there and I'm like, okay. And I just checked it right off, where I was just like, okay, yeah, that's something that I never really
just starting to build the RKO. I meant the Diamond Cutter.
Yeah, well, right. Dallas, you could definitely tell that something was there. You could definitely tell, like, about a year earlier with Dallas. You're like, okay, there's something here. And then by the next January, next February, he's one of the most over guys in the company.
Yeah, I remember watching a match. For some reason, as far as early DDP goes, I remember watching him wrestle the Booty Man. And
oh, my God.
Nothing wrong with DDP. He did his part. And actually, it's one of the things that made him stand out.
Oh, God.
The Booty Man. One of the things that actually kind of stood out was that he did his part really well. I remember Heenan saying on commentary, he's going to be a world champion one day. Well, shit, he got it right.
The high knee. That was his finish. It was the high knee. Oh, my God. That was the worst.
With Brutus, that's the worst. There's so many to pick from, though.
The Zodiac was... No, the Booty Man was the absolute worst. That was the shit.
Okay, all right, you guys, you ready for this?
Oh, God.
When we would do voiceovers, when we would do post-production of any WCW television show, if it was live, a pay-per-view or Nitro or Thunder, you're live and, good luck. But if you're doing anything post, which is Saturday night, pro, worldwide, anything international syndicated, you would have time to, prep and do a tech rehearsal and get ready. So and usually I did those with Legend, with Zbyszko. And when we would get set up, the sound guy, Brad Barnett, would always say, "Okay, let me get a sound check from you, Larry." And when you do that, you hit your peak and valley. I don't know if you guys are radio guys, but you hit, the loudest you're going to be, and then come down to the softest so they can set your attenuator. And Larry was like, "Bam! What a clothesline!" That was Larry's thing. So, and then they would like, "Okay, gotcha, Ledge. All right, Scott, we need to do one for you." And I would say this. You ready? And I want to start the tape. I would say, "Dizzy Brutus Boulder, the Beefcake Zodiac, the Butcher Barber, the Yes No Man with no name, Ed Leslie." And that was my gimmick. And I remember after I would do that, Ledge would lay on the floor for 10 minutes every Wednesday because it was like he'd never heard it before. But I'm like, Dizzy, and then he would try to do it. He'd go, "I can't do that." But it was Dizzy Brutus Boulder, the Beefcake Zodiac, Booty Butcher Barber Disciple, the Yes No Man with no name, Ed Leslie.
Yeah, tongue twister.
It is.
Yeah.
But it also satisfied the sound guy, Brad, so we were good.
The only Brutus Beefcake figure that I have, the only Ed Leslie figure I have in my collection is a Zodiac figure. That's it. Why? There's nothing else. I don't want anything else. Because the Zodiac to me is just like the peak of his career, in my opinion. Out of all of his gimmicks, because it's just like Brutus was but of course people could be like, "Well, what about the Disciple? What about him?"
Well, I thought the Disciple actually had potential. I just would have picked somebody else.
You know what my favorite Ed Leslie gimmick was? It's one that's not in my gimmick that I do when I do the sound check thing. It was when, for maybe 2 tapings, hell, maybe 1 taping, and I think it was at this taping in Macon, Georgia, when he came out after he'd had the face gimmick from the woman hitting him in the face.
Oh, the parasailing accident,
the beach, on the parasailing thing. And he had to wear a mask, and he came out as like a pirate. And he just ran in, and he had this chest protector on, and he had like a Gaspar Brothers mask on with fake hair. And he just came in and waffled somebody and ran out. And it was the craziest shit you've ever seen. And I remember when I saw that, I'm like, cool, they're bringing the Gaspar Brothers from New Japan over, which was Bob Orton Jr. and Jason the Terrible, I think, from Calgary. But then it never happened again. And then he ended up coming back as Brutus.
One of my favorite, I actually have a favorite Ed Leslie moment. It's more of like, this poor bastard's going to get it, but still, Hogan had just won I think Hogan had just won the title off of the Giant. I think this is Hog Wild.
Oh God, yes, David, you have read my fucking mind. It's my favorite moment of his career.
Because he's coming out. I'm one of the cool kids. I'm in the NWO. Hogan, we love you. And Hogan plays along at first and just jacks shit's heel all over. That's when Hogan's heel. Hogan beats up Brutus. It's like there was no clear. It's like, I'm sure when he first came out, fans was like, "Oh shit, we're just gonna get heel Hogan with Hogan's friends, aren't we?" No, Hogan's gonna fuck him up.
He brought a cake out for him. Because it was his birthday, and they just beat the shit out of him. He also brought him a gift. He wrapped up a can of spray paint for him. It's like, how much fucking money this guy's made for you, and you couldn't give him a Rolex? God, he main evented fucking Starrcade for him. And it's just like, he gave you a fucking job, and you get him a can of spray paint for his birthday. You can't even get him a fucking Rolex. What an asshole. Ungrateful prick. He deserved that beating.
It was great though. And then it was like, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about Ed Leslie joining NWO. That won't happen.
No,
he's not a
that's not
disciple, I'm
happening.
sure.
Thank God for that. Can you imagine if he did it, like all of a sudden, it's just, oh God, that would have been the worst. That immediately, that thing would have tanked immediately.
Oh yeah, Kevin. I'm sure if anyone even had the idea to do it, Kevin Nash was like, no,
No fucking way.
no, just no.
Because they still had deal memos. They would have been like, oh, we'll go right back to Vince.
Yeah, here's Sean's having an interesting time and needs opponents.
You know, when he first came in, when Ed Leslie first came into WCW, they obviously didn't know what to call him. You know, what they were going to do with him, they knew he was going to be Hogan's. He was going to be Hogan's Brutai. Ding!
Brother Brutai.
We'll call him Brother Brutai. And then that didn't work because that's what Hogan called him. And it wasn't cool enough. Like, you know, Kevin Nash could call anybody anything and it was cool. Hogan called Ed Leslie Brother Brutai and people were like, what? That's dumb. And so then when he turned on Hulk, it was on a Saturday night. I think it was a Saturday night. And Tony Schiavone had been told when Ed Leslie turns on Hulk, just go crazy saying he's butchering him. He's just butchering him. Look at him, he's butchering him. My God, it's like, you know, a cow in the back room of the grocery store. He's butchering him so they can make him the butcher, which also lasted about 2 weeks. Not because Tony couldn't get a dumb idea, but
I don't know.
And that's why he had so many names. Every time they tried the Butcher, the Disciple, and the Yes No Man. Remember when he was in the Dungeon of Doom?
Killing me.
You know, Kevin would talk to him and he'd go, yes, no, yes.
The Zodiac.
No, and then he was the Zodiac. And then they finally came up, and this was Kevin's idea, with the perfect name, which was the Man with No Name. They finally had just given completely the fuck up and said, just call him the Man with No Name. For God's sakes, we've got to build a pay-per-view. And
I mean, maybe shooting it out of a cannon maybe would have worked. Like, just, hey, we're gonna
Cannonball Ed Leslie. I love it.
The best work he ever done was that Hog Wild get the shit beat out of him.
Oh, it's so great. It was one of my favorite. Like, that is just because if they threw a shirt at him, my God, the stock would have just plummeted that day. It would have just been like, and the NWO is finished.
And Vince would be like, me worried?
That's right. And Vince is like, well, if there's one guy they took, I'm glad they took. It was Ed Leslie. Or Honky Tonk, who we had for a cup of coffee, or Jim Neidhart.
Not going to do the job.
Eric Bischoff on his podcast said, the one man I was happy to fire was the Honky Tonk Man.
I believe that. I believe that.
Guys, the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. I mean, we got to...
no, that's Gunther now. Sorry.
No.
You don't have to claim it anymore.
I still love that gimmick.
I love the fact that he could actually somewhat sing the song. So I got to give him props for that. And the song is actually kind of cool.
It is a good song.
And then I've seen a couple of live clips. He can do the most basic strumming of the guitar, so he kind of passively does it. But then you go to Jesse Ventura, who I don't know if he really knows how to play the piano, but what I was seeing in that clip didn't look like it.
The same event where Vince comes out with the famous Stand Back song, which
my God,
Stand Back.
If you break the lyrics down, he's basically telling you how he conquered wrestling in that song. If you really actually think about it, I promise you, break the lyrics down one time.
You break it down, and it's just a giant fuck you to Jim Crockett and Vern Gagne. That's pretty much what that song is. It's like just fuck you, Vern. Fuck you, Jim.
And
this whole thing's gonna be mine.
and the bass player for Metallica, Hulk Hogan, is performing.
Jeez Louise.
He's out there dancing. You're gonna see a lot of men drop. Baby, won't you jump? Baby, baby.
When I think that Jason Newsted is out there still plugging along, trying to find gigs and make enough money, to pay his mortgage, and that Hogan is claiming that he's a better bass player.
Oh. No, Jason Newsted could talk to you with a bass guitar. That man needs the credit. He deserves it.
He's wonderful.
Even if Hogan was in Metallica, he still wouldn't be the biggest asshole. That would go to Lars.
Wow.
So,
ouch.
That is amazing.
Somebody pointed out that Lars and Dominic Mysterio look alike.
Mac agrees.
That is true. I'm 100% with you. I've noticed that.
Dom and Lars look alike.
Yeah, they're both assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I like Dom.
Yeah, there's I'm a big watching cooking shows on YouTube, and there's a
cool,
Dan.
Cook. You've been to my shows twice, Dan. Like, why are you talking shit about me? I don't know anything about wrestling. Shut up, Lars.
I mean, Lars has been around. Holy shit, Metallica been around like 40 years.
83 is when they started. In that band, you can literally listen at them, learn how to drum. Through the history of Metallica, you listen to him, learn how to be a drummer. Yeah,
I got no problem with his drumming. He doesn't strike me as all that great of a guy. I'll defer to you guys.
You're one of my stealing my bands. Music.
You're one of my music. You're one of my favorite bands ever. They are one of my favorite bands ever. But the problem with him is that he spends his money like he's not like a hard rock heavy metalist to me, because he goes out and he's just like, I'm gonna go buy Van Gogh. Like, he seems like
shit on Van Gogh.
He's got like a private art collection that's worth like $1 bajillion, and yet he's going out there and telling me I can't download his music. It's like,
yeah. Okay, so in 1991, when the Black Album came out, this is probably before you guys were born, or when you were in.
I was born in 85.
I was born in 83, so yeah.
Well, okay, so you were still young. I'm married to my first wife, and we're living in a really nice place up in Gwinnett County, Georgia. And I wasn't happy in that relationship. So I'm like, anything I could do to get out of the house, go see a movie, go see a show. And I grabbed the Atlanta newspaper back then that morning, and I saw, if I had missed it somehow, that Metallica was touring behind the Black Album, and they were playing at the Omni in Atlanta. And I thought, how did I miss this? And I told my wife at the time, I said, I'm going to go catch a show. Okay, great. And off I run. And I run down to the Omni, with a fistful of, cash. And I got a scalped ticket for $20, believe it or not, outside of the Omni to see Metallica. Now, it was in the nosebleed seats.
You saw Metallica, it counts.
I'm sorry?
You saw Metallica, that counts, nosebleed or not.
Yeah, it was the Black Album tour. It was amazing. And I get my ticket from the scalper, they scan it in, and I go in, and I go up to the nosebleed seats, and I can remember who the opening act was, and I'm sure it matters now. I can't remember. But I grabbed my seat, and in front of me are, these Metallica marks, and and then the lights go out, obviously, for Metallica to come up. I had missed the opening act, and the lights go out, and here they come. The crowd, you know how it is. The crowd pops, and I think they're playing Ride the Lightning or something, whatever they start with. And the girl in front of me stands up. She's wearing nothing but a thong, bikini bottom, and a leather jacket, and takes the jacket off and spends the whole show just dancing in front of me. And I'm watching Metallica on either side of her, while she, who looks like $1 million, is basically giving me not a table dance, what is it, like a stadium dance. And it was the best $20 I ever spent.
Yeah, I can't imagine beating that.
That's as good as it gets right there.
Yeah.
I've seen them. Well, Mac and I got a pretty goddamn good
Seen
one.
them.
I've seen them twice. I saw them in 2003, but the second time I saw them with Mac, and it was in 2004, and it was in Boston.
Seen them then.
It was in Boston in 2004, not just 2004 Boston. I am talking October 2004 Boston. Does everybody knows what happened during the 2004 in October? The Boston Red Sox had just came back from the 3-0 deficit against the Yankees, so it was a reverse sweep. So game 1 of the World Series, Boston had won. It was a Saturday night. Game 2, and it was in Boston. They had won game 1 against the Cardinals. Game 2 was in Boston, and Metallica was playing at the TD Bank North Garden. So it was Godsmack was the opener, and the whole time, because this is awesome at a time where it's like we don't have smartphones. So we're still trying to figure out who's winning. They're giving us updates of the game because this is game 2. Of course, we're up by 1 game, and mind you, I haven't slept for 2 weeks. But at this point, it's like it's been 2 weeks since I've sleep. Yeah, because every game with the Yankees seemed to go to like 4:00 in the morning, and so then you just here you are, game 2. You're seeing your favorite band ever. Oh yeah, and your team is finally in the World Series in your lifetime. Like, mind you, 86 happened, but that happened when I was 3 years old. So I don't remember Buckner. I don't remember the Mets. So 04 was the year I was just like, oh shit.
I am so glad that we get to talk about what I think might be one of the greatest matches in wrestling history. Certainly the greatest of that particular type of wrestling. Dean Malenko versus Rey Mysterio Jr. at the Great American Bash. And the match they had on Nitro like a week or 2 later was almost as good. I will stand by that.
I think this was Ray Jr.'s debut.
It is.
Yep.
It is his total debut, not just pay-per-view. It is first time on screen in WCW.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, he had been in ECW. I mean, obviously, the tape traders like I was at the time, we had seen the stuff from the Lucha in Mexico, obviously, but and seen what we could from ECW. So we knew how great Ray Jr. was, but nothing that we had heard or seen compared to this match.
Yeah. I think, well, on my personal list, I actually have it as my match of the year for WCW, but I think as far as the Meltzers and the others who were keeping track of that kind of stuff back in the day, if that match wasn't number 1, it was damn close for what they listed.
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember. I can't remember honestly what would have been number 1 if not this. But it was incredible. I just remember being slack-jawed watching this from backstage on the monitor, thinking, this just isn't normal. How are these guys still alive? How are they not, in an oxygen tent? Yeah, that's what got me was just the cardio of what these two men did. With the moves they made, and all those gory special roll around the ring spots they would do, just mind blowing. And I kind of knew Ray could do that, but I didn't know Dean. And again, that I take a backseat to everyone in how great Dean Malenko was early in his career. I just didn't know how great he was, but he's amazing. It just blew me away.
It's almost like what can't. It's easier to make a list of what can't Dean do in wrestling.
True.
It ain't much. I mean, the few times he ever promoted, he actually did that pretty good. And I don't care if I'm in the minority in saying that. I thought he was solid.
It's the closest thing that we're going to see to a Super J Cup type matchup in the United States.
Wow,
I think really
that's
kind of
true.
get over.
That's good.
Yeah, no, it's the only thing. It's The only thing I look at with those two, it's just like there's nobody else on the main stage that's doing this. Like no one else.
Stage.
Like
I think you put the cruiserweight title on the map.
Sure.
Well, no, it's just at least for a main company, at least for a top 2 company, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
Japan, it's norm.
I know the cruiserweight title had been around for a little bit. It even got jacked to New Japan there for a little bit during the Japanese invasion of WCW. But I think this match is what actually put the cruiserweight title on the map as a title that people in the United States would actually care about.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
And also with some of the other matches, because they would end up having another. There was a rematch. I think it might have been
shitload.
They did have. They traded the title back and forth because I remember Ray won it back from I think Malenko, or he won the title from Malenko at one point on a Monday Nitro from MGM.
It was right. He won the title. I remember watching this. He won the title from Nitro, from Malenko. I think on the very same Nitro after Hulk Hogan had betrayed everyone and become the rotten bastard that he was. I think that was the
dirty
actual
bastard.
night. I think that was the night that Mysterio actually won that title. I think he won it that night. That Nitro right afterward. I mean, that was probably one of the best damn TV matches right there.
Everything they've ever done was solid. Like they always had.
They got lawn darted later.
Oh my gosh. The best one still.
Yeah.
No one. They've done it. They've done it again. No one has been able to do it as good.
Yeah, this is one of those that, what made why did WCW win 83 weeks in a row or whatever it was? I would put this match as one of the reasons, maybe not the reason. You're not going to beat the WWF 83 weeks with this match, but it's one of the reasons when people could just dial up this and see what Ray and Dean did. It was unlike the next match, which we'll get to in a second.
Oh God!
Boy!
But this match is one that could pull people away. It's like when we were talking about Jimmy Cornette earlier. He had this theory about television back in the 90s, which was what he called, I think we talked about this, which was the bullshit click rule.
Yes.
That if you're watching television and you see something and you go, that's bullshit, click, and you turn the channel. You're not going to bullshit click out of Dean and Ray Jr. On this match, or Eddie, or Chris Benoit, or Chris Jericho, or any of the luchadors, Psicosis, any of those guys, Juventud. You're not going to bullshit click away from those guys. And this was just the epitome of that.
Maybe Super Carlo, maybe. No. Sorry. Not a fan.
What was that?
I said maybe Super Carlo. I didn't like him very much.
Wow, I forgot about him. Honestly.
Can't go wrong with El Dandy.
Yeah.
Who are you? That's...
Who are you to doubt El Dandy?
Bret Hart, and that's maybe my favorite Bret Hart promo of all time.
You can build an entire wrestler just with a single line, and Bret Hart did it.
He did.
He's the best.
Who are you?
And his cat Smokey. Who are you to doubt El Dandy?
All of a sudden, I wanted to see Bret Hart versus El Dandy, just like that.
Exactly.
And he said it to Gene, right? To Gino.
Yeah,
it was to Gene.
I mean, God, and then El Dandy's like, holy shit, I better get new gear.
Because they were trying to. I think character-wise, he was dodging Dean Malenko, and then he was also like mocking it. It's like, I got a groin pull, shit like that. Yeah.
El Dandy, you're a great wrestler.
Was Bret the world champion?
United States champion, I think.
And he
was talking about who he's got to face, and he wouldn't mention any of the top contenders. And Gino was like, "What about?" And what about? He goes, "Well, there's other contenders out there like El Dandy. El Dandy."
He's a cruiserweight.
He's a cruiserweight. Yeah, he is. Who are you to doubt El Dandy?
Oh God. Bret Hart's the best.
He really is. He's fantastic.
That's why he's on my list.
So we go from one of the best matches ever with Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio Jr. to a match we've kind of seen. I mean, this is a match actually I think we've seen in 1994, 1995. We can probably even go back to like 1990, 1991, 1992.
You've seen it, yeah.
90, 94, 95, 96.
Yeah.
Probably thrown in 97 in somewhere.
And the sad thing is, both John Tenta and Ray Traylor, nice guys, and to both be, north of 350, pushing 400 pounds each, are amazing athletes and can do stuff.
I remember, speaking of John Tenta, and I think it was Tenta, and I don't think it was the other one. I think they were doing this War Games match, and I think John Tenta is supposed to dive over the ropes, and he doesn't quite make it, so he gets stuck on the ropes, and Sting kind of does a double take, and then quickly gets back into his work and starts kicking the shit out of him. But that moment, him trying to dive over the ropes, and it's like, nope, he has trapped himself.
Oh gosh. Big man, don't fly.
But the best part is that, like, one of the things that got me was like that half-second double take from like Sting. It's like, oh,
jeez.
If you guys, and I know you've seen this, and I'm not. I mean, both have passed. And I love Tenta. I love Traylor. Great guys, easy to work with, nice men. Great families, met both of their families over the years. But there is a GIF out there of, I think it's Hogan and Savage maybe against Akeem and Boss Man when they were doing the Twin Towers thing. Wasn't that Akeem and Boss Man?
Yes, it was.
Where Akeem is doing into the ropes and is going to spring off the ropes, and like he's so heavy he drops the top rope and takes the bump over the top to the floor, which he wasn't supposed to do. And then Boss Man just kind of like does a double take. You're talking about double takes, David, earlier.
Yeah.
And watches him and cracks up and then tries to find some kind of spot to do while Akeem is flying ass over tea kettle over the top rope in a spot that wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, when you got guys that are 400 pounds on ropes that are made for guys that are 200 pounds, that kind of stuff's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that didn't happen in this match, but it didn't.
I think the match that you were referencing also was the match where Savage and Hogan had the explosion. I think that was the Saturday night's main event.
Oh, yeah, with What's the Design.
Yeah, that was the one where...
With lust in his eyes?
Oh, big time.
Lust in his eyes, yeah.
Oh, big time.
Saturday night's main event, was it?
Yeah, the big explosion of the mega powers. You would lust in the eyes.
That entire match, and again, if you remember, that was backstage when Hogan is like doing the, oh, Liz, what's the tiz-ime? What's the tiz-ime? Because he was waiting on the cue.
Yes.
Oh, God. What a catastrophe.
But it got over. It got over so huge.
Yes, it did.
That was one of the biggest selling pay-per-views for like over a decade.
Liz sold that Impact like she had actually died. And the nearest I've ever seen another sell like that was when Big Show ran over A.G. Lee. And I think it was a SmackDown. And big old Big Show just knocks her ass over. And A.J. Lee, if she had never come back, you would have assumed that he had killed her.
That's true. Like she did look like she just got run over by a train.
Yeah.
Like it's just
she looked like she got run over by a 500-pound man. So fair point.
Which she did. Yeah, that was. I thought you were going to start talking about Big Show dragging off Boss Man's dad's
Boss Man with the coffin. Oh my God.
Favorite angles ever.
Russo,
I can't get enough of that. God, that was funny.
The worst thing a boss man ever did was feed Al Snow his dog.
Oh my God.
Oh God. Yes, that's true. That's worse.
To think he did this within 3 months of the 3 months of the dad thing with the Big Show.
Oh my
Like
God.
3 months earlier, I cooked a dog and fed it to Al Snow. Now you want me to go
Yeah.
just
Big Show drag my dad off.
unreal trill jobs. Just what the hell?
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's well, that's not the Great American Bash '96. But hey, let's be honest, no one will ever forget the dogs taking a piss in the middle of that match, that Kennel from Hell, and they're calling it out on commentary because that's what JR would do. He just
Dog's relieving himself on the mat, so Al Snow's got him with.
That's what dogs do.
The dog is relieving himself. The suplex by Al Snow on goddamn. You got me doing this Kettle from Hell match. Vince, what the hell are you doing?
It almost killed him itself.
Oh my God. Well, whatever was left of John Tenta and Ray Traylor, we've killed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ouch.
No offense.
Oh.
Yeah, Jimmy Hart was in that match too as a manager.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I got to say because that's not one of those moments with Jimmy Hart that sticks out in my head. One of my favorite moments is when he gets the drop kick from the Jumping Bomb Angels and falls on his ass in Survivor Series.
That was awesome.
Yeah. He got clobbered a lot that night. In all fairness, Jimmy took more bumps than some of the wrestlers on that particular show.
Speaking of bumps,
especially in the next match.
Jeez, I was just gonna great transition, Scott. I was about to go with it.
Well, I am a professional.
The Benoit match and Kevin Sullivan. And one of their 6 matches where they just try to murder each other for 6 months straight. And I'm sorry about the use of terms, but let's be honest, that's what it looked like.
Yeah. We didn't know at the time, and I take a backseat to no one. I was good friends with Chris, and it's now been, 18 years since Chris killed his family. And it's only been a year, not even, since Kevin passed. But this match, this entire show now, once we get into, good grief, the entire show, save for Tenta and Rogers, which was the popcorn match, the Benoit and Kevin was incredible. And don't sell short Jackie Moore in this match. Good.
I don't even think it's the best one of their crazy encounters. I think it's really good, but they had one a few pay-per-views later where Miss Jackie and Woman were fighting each other too, even though they weren't officially in the match. They were wrestling just as hard. Absolutely.
That entire feud, and it's the old Kevin booked his own divorce and all that, and I get it.
Yeah.
But God Almighty, this entire match, it's one of those that, despite how smart you think you are to the business, even if you've been in the business for 50 years, you're thinking okay, this is supposed to be a work, and they're just beating the hell out of each other.
It's actually better than most ECW matches too.
Scott, I do have to. I'm sorry to cut you off, Dave. What were you going to say?
All I was saying is like an ECW match, but better. The Benoit Sullivan match.
No,
I agree.
It definitely is, and it also, I feel like, toned down the violence and kind of made it more realistic. It's not, because I feel like sometimes with ECW violence is occasionally it got too cartoonish, where this match really isn't cartoonish. It looked like a real fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, I do have to ask the question because you were in the backstage at this point.
Sure.
And you were somewhat in the know, maybe not completely, but somewhat. What was the atmosphere and kind of vibe that you guys were getting from Kevin and Chris from this time, is there kind of a sense that, all right, there's shit going on, or is still kind of things, they're being professional, and that's it? Like, there's nothing there yet where it's turned into some heat? Or are things really, at this point, you're just starting to see things come to the surface?
It's a great question. The bottom line is, as an announcer, I can't speak to being, any talent that was in the locker room, but as an announcer, never brought up. It was an angle with two tough, talented guys. Let's see what they do. And with those two, you didn't have to see what you knew would be amazing. But at some point in hindsight, yeah, we should have been able to see it. But working the boys, working the locker room just wasn't done. That, with all due respect to Russo, who I adore, that was kind of a Russo move to work the locker room. Back then it was, it's a work. It's a show. We'll all go to the bar afterwards and talk about it and hug it out and how can we do better next time? So that's the way, as an announcer, we were approaching it.
I think if you really want to kind of know, I think one of the telltale signs whether or not Benoit actually likes someone or not is to watch his chops. I've noticed that with certain people over the years, he'll do a normal chop, and other people who'll do a chop with nails in and scratch the shit out of their chest. I know he opened up Ric Flair's chest a shitload in 2004. Because when I was watching this match, I know that they had heat later, but when he was doing those chops, I didn't see nails in. So that doesn't mean anything. That's just circumstantial. But as someone who clearly wasn't there, I suspect that heat hadn't developed yet. That they were.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, David, but remember also, this was Benoit only at about less than 10 years into his career. He may not have had that kind of confidence.
Fair enough.
I agree with you that, as it went forward,
you've seen the nails in
5-6 years later. Yeah, 5-6 years later, he would lay him in and hurt you. He could. He's a tough guy. But back then, even though if he could, I don't know that he would have, because he just was still, he was my guy. You can go back and look at a WCW magazine when they brought me in. They did like a one-page feature on me as like, hey, here's our new announcer. They came out and took photos of me at my house with my dogs and whatever. And they asked me, hey, who's your favorite guy? I said, Benoit. And they put that in the article. And that was kind of like my, walking in the door was like, Benoit's my favorite wrestler. So back then he wasn't much. He was still working his way up. And so, back then he would have been, he may not have been as confident in his spot to do what you're saying, David, but he certainly was tough enough to.
He hadn't been in WCW a year, I don't think. I don't think he'd been in WCW a year at that point, if I'm right. Time frame.
You're right, because I think it was around.
He had a one-off in '94, but that was a guest spot.
That was a guest spot, and I think he had
that tournament. Yeah, the tag team thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he had some dark matches with WWF, but they couldn't come to an agreement. And then, so I think it was around the Nitro era where they brought him in, because I remember he got that famous, he's pulling up in a limousine, and they kind of, he's just like getting ready for the competition and all this type of stuff. So they kind of had promoted him. And then, of course, he got the Horseman rub, and that kind of really
he had to replace Pillman.
No, he was in with Pillman.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he was in with Pillman.
Mongo got Pillman's spot.
Yeah,
and then foreshadowing to later with Mongo takes Pillman's spot, but they were pretty much three horsemen up and from February until this show. But Benoit got that rub being in the Horseman. Then I noticed him being in the Horseman automatically. It's just like, well, okay. Yeah. And then,
And he's a much better choice than Paul Roma.
God.
Oh.
Oh my God.
Well, I mean, you can argue with the legacy that, unfortunately, with Benoit, of how things turned out. But if I'm looking at it honestly, in 2005, 2006, before 2007, and after 2007, you can make an argument that Benoit is a top 5, top 6 4 horseman. Just because of the work rate, and also too because of the angles that he was in. Because this thing with Sullivan was right up there with Magnum and Blanchard, and with a lot of these a lot of these angles that these guys had with Blanchard working with Dusty and all this stuff. It's right up there of just like a really high intense angle.
It's worth pointing out though. In far as the WCW audience, I think this match does a lot to kind of, because before this match, Kevin Sullivan's kind of a cartoon character,
Correct.
And after this match, he's a lot more serious because he's involved in that match and some matches similar to it. I think this match helped move him away from that cartoonish way that he's been in, far as WCW goes.
Thank God.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
Go ahead,
sir.
Nah. I was just making a quick comment. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to say was he kind of got outed, too, if you think about it, 4 months earlier by Pillman. I respect
Bischoff, that was a work.
Booker man.
According to Bischoff, that was a work, and only 3 people knew about it. Bischoff, Pillman, and Kevin, allegedly.
Maybe it's Bischoff's way of saving face a little bit, but
Could be.
I don't know if Pillman knew he was going to do that.
I respect you, Booker man.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
You know what? I think what Daniel said is prescient in that, and I'm not gonna second guess Eric at all ever. He's the best to me, but I'm not going to agree with Eric that only Eric, Brian, and Kevin knew he was going to say that. I would sooner believe that only Brian knew he was going to say that.
Brian probably knew 5 seconds before he said it. He's just like, fuck it. And because he was that type of renegade that it maybe just came to his head.
He was weird coming out. His entrance was looked kind of weird too. Like there was something in his mind.
How it started even was weird. It was just like, oh, okay. Like it's just
something's about to happen.
Yeah, you just kind of you got the vibe that coming into this thing.
Yeah,
even you're like,
Sullivan shrunk in the ring. He that man looked dejected for about a minute.
Well, too, I think he was the booker too, because at the time, so of course, being the booker, but also too, so you're trying to save face as a heel, but also at the same time you're dejected a little bit because you're just like you're outed, and that's the first time in a mainstream promotion that anyone ever did that. That to my knowledge, any booker had been outed like that. You didn't see. I mean, Vince McMahon had admitted to the courts that they were booking WWF in the late '80s, but he didn't appear on Saturday Night's Main Event and go, "Well, Jesse, I booked this shit." Well, they almost did that angle in, I believe it was Memphis, where they had that famous tape with like Bob Roop and then Bob Orton. Junior, and there was this one that they were going, the Plan B was what they talked about, which they had lost TV and they were with another promotion. It might have been Memphis with Lawler, and they were going to play this tape and pretty much out the whole business. Ugh. And it's on YouTube. You can find it, but it's just, all they're doing is they're pretty much just saying, well, what we're doing is really playing a character. And this was to pretty much just destroy the promotion, but it wasn't in a sense of it would have destroyed the entire business. I don't know if Scott's heard about it.
It was in the 80s or the 90s when they did this.
I think it was the 70s.
In the 70s, it might have killed the business.
It might have killed the business in the 70s. But it's out there. And then, of course, there's the Eddie Einhorn stuff that he did for the 2020 angle and
hold on.
That whole thing for Stossel.
I think we just lost Scott.
Yeah, I'm texting him now. His lights got dark. He looked like he was looking at his phone, and he exited. I just sent him a text.
Oh.
Yeah.
We might have to. We might have to do a. If he doesn't, if I'll see what the text says. We might have to do a continue this later. I'm guessing something came up.
Oh. Okay.
I don't know though. We'll hang on for a few minutes. I just sent him a text.
Yeah, that's fine.
He doesn't seem like the type of guy who would just Welsh on us, so I'm pretty sure something's happened, or he's just.
No, I don't think that at all.
But I just fucked up and hit something by accident too.
Might have.
Yeah.
It happens.
But I was looking at it too. I was like, wait a minute. He got dark.
If he doesn't make it back, we should just. We could probably. We could probably make plans to watch. We could probably make plans to do a continuation show in like a couple weeks. We could just hold this one in the can.
China is open to dialogue with the U.S. after President Trump's 125% tariff. No shit.
You know, I'm still in my wrestling head. I was like, I thought China was dead.
I was thinking. So I was just like, why are we trying to into this conversation about WCW?
Yeah. I was like, Jesus, she died, but now she's back and she's mad at Trump. What the fuck?
David Moxley has got to drop the title, and he's got to drop a fucking cow. He needs to drop the cow.
Everybody wants him to drop the title so bad. It's starting to build kind of an energy about it, kind of like fuck, like he's starting to get talked about.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Finishes at this point. That's what it is for me.
It's the same fucking finish every goddamn show. And it's killing the audience already because they're drowned out by the fact that they're there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it's just like, oh, I'm going to go home unhappy now because the main event's going to fucking suck.
Well, listen, last month, Christian Cage comes out. He fucks the finish, kind of. You can make your argument however you want to make it, but let's be real. He fucked the finish. And then this month, the Bucks fucked the finish. I don't remember 2 months ago, but there was a fun finish too. It's like, I'm just fucking tired of it.
Yeah, this is by far the worst Moxley reign of his entire career, not just AEW.
This might be one of the most, as far as a major promotion is concerned, one of the most damaging world title reigns in the history of the industry.
Yeah.
Because it's killing
sucks.
them. It's sucking the life out of the promotion. Because no one cares now. No one cares about the title.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I found out. Stand by. His power got taken out.
Okay.
His power went down, and he's trying to come back online. I'll just tell him we'll stand by for a little bit, and if not, we can do a continuation. I'll go ahead and text him.
Or we can just keep going too, which probably what's going to happen is it's just going to be, I'm not even going to pause it or anything because it's just like, we're talking about wrestling anyways to keep us going.
Yeah.
But
I'm going to text him. We'll stand by for a bit, and then if he can't make it back, we can just we can plan a continuation. Because I know where we left off, which is Sullivan Benoit, which is going to be easy to remember.
That's going to be easy to remember and then we could just do
Benoit.
There's only 3 matches left, anyways. Yeah.
And then the NWO angle, but that's besides that. But yeah,
well, we already kind of talked about that earlier, anyways. But yeah, we can talk a little bit more about it.
Yeah. I think yeah.
I'm also happy that we're not talking about the road to WrestleMania because
yeah.
I don't care. I don't care about any of it right now.
They've made it hard this year. They really have.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. Scott's back. How about that?
Scott's back?
Yep.
Cool.
Bring him back.
Oh, let me put the tits away. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, shit.
You okay, Scott? You said the power went out.
Hey, I'm finally back, guys. Everything all right? I don't know if you can see me.
We were talking about China. That was
China?
and then John Moxley.
China, yeah, Moxley.
Oh my God. I went through some kind of wormhole then. I don't know anything about that.
I think what's next is an unexpected matchup, if there ever was one. Sting versus Regal. Both great wrestlers, but you'd never expect them to wrestle each other. But They do.
This
It's
was
right here,
fucking awesome.
and it's great.
It was so good.
But it's there. It's like that's one of the things I love about WCW, though. Okay, like my biggest gripe with WWF going back across its history is the guys like Austin and Hogan and Brett and Cena and Roman. Once they hit those top spots, they don't work with mid carders almost never. With WCW, unless it's Hogan himself, of course, you would see it a lot. Like Sting wrestling Regal here, or in '95, Ric Flair was wrestling Eddie Guerrero on Nitro. And I love that. I love that they would still bring the main events guys and step him down for a match or two with someone on the lower end of the card. That's what WWF should be doing, and they're not. And
Absolutely right.
They still don't do it.
I agree fully. And, it's the only way to build up the next generation. Don't get me started on John Cena.
Oh, God.
Do we need
I hate that guy.
Thank God.
Do we want to plan a show where we bitch about Cena?
Every
fucking
fiber of
God.
my being, I hate that guy for a million reasons, including something like this. That when Kurt Angle elevated him on his first night in, he wouldn't, the time-honored tradition and all the, the bullshit about elevating people from underneath you up to the next level to keep the business going. Sting would do that.
Yes.
Good God, Sting would do that because Sting remembered what it was like in Mid-South and in Memphis when the other guys did it for him, and he brings Regal up, and Regal's fantastic, but it helped Regal because he was just in there with Sting, and then after that, Regal was, God, how long did he last after this before he went to the WWF?
I think he was in the company till '98. Then he was gone for like a cup of coffee to be, he's a man. And then he came back to WCW.
Right. Oh my God, yeah.
Then he got, then of course there was the match with Goldberg.
His position on the card was, his position in WCW was kind of chaotic from this month to the next, whether he was featured or where it's featured or not featured at all. But I know he was physically present for at least till '98, I think.
I heard his planned, the Marcus of Queensberry rules Cup series with Hulk Hogan got canceled. Like the one he had with the one he had with Flair in '94. Like it was like, oh, we're gonna do it with Hogan. It's like, yeah, no, we're not.
I wonder who canceled that.
Yeah, it wouldn't work for him, brother. I've taken my shots at WWE a lot on this show, but I will say this: Regal's 2002 to 2003 run in WWE is probably the peak of his career. He won every single title, in some cases multiple times, except for the world title. He won the hardcore, he won their version of the US, he won their IC, he won their tag titles with more than one partner. He won everything except for he didn't win the women's title, obviously, but he just didn't win the world title. He won everything else. And I thought, and he was made to look awesome. He had great matches. He won most of them. So that's, Regal's best matches maybe in WCW, but his best career push is easily to 2002, 2003 WWE.
Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. And this is strictly from memory, not having thought about it, put any research or thought into it. But wasn't there, to bring it full circle, wasn't there a Regal Benoit match at the Mark Hildebrand Memorial Show or something like that really put both of them on the map as like, we know who these guys are, but God, they can go.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. I remember hearing about that. And that was kind of like a sought after tape for a while because that was in the tape trader days. Because I think that was a show that was all promotions could work, but they couldn't tape it because of, legalities. Which
what's Cat doing?
Which is still kind of surprising when I think about when they did WrestleFest with Terry Funk in '97. And it was
Is that
kind
the
of
one with Bret Hart appeared on, or am I thinking a different show?
yeah. You're thinking the same thing I am. How it was kind of like an ECW show, but Bret Hart was in the main event. It was like, what the fuck is this?
I've seen that match on YouTube. One of my headphone ears worked, one of them didn't because that was the quality of the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's on the. It might be on Peacock because there is a restored version of it. But
yeah,
it is a sight to behold. It is a pretty good matchup.
I mean, they're wrestling. Sorry, I was just thinking about how much I hate WWE's replacement wrestling teams. But
we know.
But yeah, and Regal submitted too, and I don't think he submits very often in his career. But he submitted to Sting. I mean, it's Sting. I get it, but it's like, damn. How does Regal submit? Not much.
Gave him 16 minutes, though. I mean,
yeah.
One of the longer matches on the card.
Which they deserved, to be quite honest.
No, they did, absolutely.
They did give Ice Train, though, like 10 minutes, so it's like...
That's true. That is true.
And then he didn't even go under.
Mm-mm.
On this show, Steve Regal did a job and Ice Train didn't.
No, exactly. It's like, what are we... And he went as clean as a whistle by submission. Which, I mean, that's one thing I got to say about Regal. It's like, well, yeah, I should lose to your finish because you're Sting and I'm Steven Regal, which he didn't mind doing that, because he understands it and gets it. That's why Regal, I think, is one of the most influential people in the industry still right now, just because of the fact of there's an entire generation of talent that are willing to go under the tree. And it sounds
Not
like
many
to
of
me,
them in AEW.
Wow.
I cannot believe the stories that I heard from top wrestling, like, just people that know better, like people that have they've been in this industry so long, and these guys are just like, no, I'm just happy to have my money. It's like, how are you gonna grow? How are you gonna grow? It's like, man, I already got signed. It's like, really? Okay.
But yeah. Did they replace the Regal theme on Peacock? 'Cause I swear to God, it sounds like Colonel Tom's theme when he comes out. I could
Colonel
be wrong.
Tom's?
Am I saying Colonel Tom?
Colonel
the guy
Tom.
that's supposed to look like the guy that's supposed to be an imitation of Elvis is Colonel Tom, but I think he had a different name. I forget.
Colonel Rob Parker.
Colonel Robert Parker.
Colonel Rob Parker. I swear to God, it sounds like his theme, but I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, who the fuck is...
Well, he's inspired by Colonel Tom.
Is
That's
he?
Elvis's guy. So I'm not too far off. I got the inspiration.
Jesus.
God.
It's actually Colonel Sanders, I do declare.
I do declare.
Like Foghorn Leghorn from the old Warner Brothers cartoon.
That guy's going to listen to this and going to be like, oh my God, they mentioned me. Oh, God.
But yeah, I thought Regal's music here was just kind of weird. It made me wonder if they swapped out, because sometimes instead of writing some bullshit, they'll just take some underused wrestler's theme and just slip that on there. And then sometimes it could be really freaking jarring. I've heard Rey Mysterio's wrestling theme pop up on like an ECW show. His WCW theme popping up on an ECW show. It's like, that don't fit.
I still have to have my master tapes of ECW shows just because of the fact of there's some stuff you just need the music for.
Like Enter Sandman for the Sandman.
Yeah, or like New Jack with Gangster's Paradise, or not Gangster's Paradise, but Natural Born Killers. So it's just like, it's this, that's part of the act. And
yeah,
you watch it on Peacock, you're like, yeah, Paul really knew how to do that. Like some of those hardcore TVs, they were just, I felt like you were watching MTV like 120 minutes, or like headbang, like not Headbangers Ball, because it was literally music videos, and they were just snippets clipped in of wrestling clips, and that was the majority. Like they did that with the
90s
Raven.
TV.
They did that with the Raven and Tommy Dreamer feud. They did it with like Smells Like Teen Spirit. They did a November Rain one with Guns N' Roses for November to Remember.
Aww.
Like they were so heavy as far as being able to make wrestling music videos. It was,
And today, WrestleMania has The Weeknd again.
Again.
6 times.
Again.
I mean, there are main event wrestlers who are legends who have not been on 6 WrestleManias, and this motherfucker, who's like one of the worst performers ever, at least the worst WrestleMania performer, he's got 6 in a row with his fucking song. Last year, you can tell Triple H don't even like him because you hear The Weeknd like one time, and then any other fucking song you could think of through the rest of the show. But no, 6 fucking times. I mean, shit. I think Austin wrestled 5. Well, before Kevin Owens came in, that match, that would have been 6. The fucking bullshit.
Well, please keep in mind that at one of the greatest shows ever, which was WrestleWar '89 in Nashville with WCW, that had
That's a great show.
Flair Steamboat on top. I was at ringside, second row for that. I'm all over the video.
Oh, it was great.
On top of everything else, when the show was over, we had a 30-minute Oak Ridge Boys concert.
Oh
wow.
My God.
Wow.
And I like the Oak Ridge Boys, and that's
y'all were in the South for sure.
Please, and also at Wrestle Rock, the one that we've all seen the music video for. The rock part was Waylon Jennings.
That's fine. It's Waylon. I respect the Waylon.
At least Weekend is popular. And it's an acquired taste. Weekend
it's definitely an acquired taste.
But he's not calling himself country when he's the Weekend, like Waylon Jennings calling himself rock at Wrestle Rock.
Oh my God. It's like you're in the
Thank you.
I'll be in Minnesota. You can't get somebody from. I know you can't get Prince. That's literally like.
I think he's got some kind of fucking contract the Weekend with WWE. Something that Vince signed. We got to do this for 10 years straight. I don't know.
For what?
If it wasn't 5, it's got to be 10. Or maybe a 7. Sevens are a common number for contracts.
I would check Charlotte Flair's text message history.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find Kaiser in the DMs there, and maybe the Weekend's there too.
Allegedly.
I'm over here making Dan fear for his financial life.
Hey, look. I don't need. Hey, well, financial well-being, but also career perspectives. Look. Sometimes you got to think about ahead. Sometimes, or lateral moves, or something. Who knows what you're going to do in life? You guys could get sick of me and fire me. Well, that could happen one day. So.
Don't we have 2 matches left?
Yeah. Flair and Arn Anderson versus the NFL, a.k.a. Kevin Green and Mongo McMichael, who no one realizes at the time, this was basically his transition to wrestling. Whereas Kevin Green, I think he may have had one other match somewhere along the line on pay-per-view.
Deborah's there. Actually, 2 of them, I think. Yeah, actually, I remember he had 97.
Yeah. And then Deborah's there long before meeting Austin. So there's that. Long before there were puppies, Deborah was there with the NFL match. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean...
honestly, I'll say this. I thought the match was pretty good considering you got 2 guys who probably had to be spoon-fed because they had never really done this before or hadn't done this on screen at least.
That's an outstanding analysis, and I agree. And it's 2 things, because Kevin Green and Steven Michael are athletes.
Yeah.
And number one, they weren't hired to come in. They both wanted to be there.
It's kind of like LT and Bam Bam.
I'm sorry?
It's kind of like LT and Bam Bam. He wasn't a wrestler, but he was an athlete, so it kind of worked. Plus,
and he wanted to be there. LT wanted to be there in that spot. And then he's in there like LT was with Bam Bam. These two guys are in there with Flair and Arn. I mean,
you can't ask for better
what two
partners.
guys are better? I mean, can you imagine Kevin and Mongo being put in this spot against, hell, who knows, Ice Train and Ice Train 2, if there was such a thing.
Going back to Ice Train.
I feel like Ice Train versus Arn Anderson could be fire on the right night. Even if on the right night.
So this was, I wasn't going to say it was guaranteed to be good, but if there's ever a match with two guys that aren't wrestlers that's laid out to work, this is it. Two guys that want to be in the spot, are incredible athletes, going up against two of the all-time greats, and then you've got enough talent at ringside, to take the heat if they get lost in the ring. It's just wonderfully booked. They go 21 minutes, but it was fine. It was fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's a good match.
I think it's the longest match of the night, actually.
It is.
It is. Yeah. Yep.
As well, it should have been, just because, and of course, it's because you're telling like a broader story, and you could argue that there's a lot of kind of production to it, and it's just more about the story, where it's just like the match. But I look at it and I say, for the fact that those two guys and the spot that they're in, and it's not like this is a tag team where it's like you're putting them up with another veteran, right?
Yeah.
You're putting two guys that are completely green as fucking gourd. And you're putting them up against two of the best of all time. But this is also Arn. He's not exactly at 100% because he's got the injury that would eventually end his career a few months later. And then Flair, he's not exactly a spring chicken at this point. And so it's like you're putting all this responsibility on these two guys to kind of just like, all right, do what you can. And of course they knock it out of the park because they're Ric Flair and Arn Anderson.
And it helps sell this show as one of the best WCW shows, honestly, because as much as I don't personally subscribe to the theory that one match ruins the show, if this match had been a gigantic egg, it certainly would have affected the show's entire perception.
Oh, right.
I agree.
100% agree.
That if this match had shit the bed, they would have said the show shit the bed.
Yeah,
and the fact that it didn't means that the show was great. It elevated it instead of bringing it down. I agree.
Yeah, because Tenta and Rogers, it could have been good. It could have been bad. Okay, it probably couldn't have been good, but never mind. But it wasn't going to ruin the show. You'd be like, most wrestling shows have a goose egg, but this is one of the two main events, so it had to deliver.
Right. And you think about this, and this is sad, of the four principals in the match, Kevin and Mongo. Kevin passed 5 years ago.
Mongo don't look well.
Mongo is not doing well.
ALS.
He's hanging on more than I thought he would.
He's
one of the worst diseases ever. Yeah. And I God, have good thoughts and good vibes to Mongo with everything I've got. I love that guy. Worked with him, I don't know how many times. Did a show with him back in 2019 in Chicago, StarCast, one of the Conrad Thompson shows. And this was before the ALS got him. He was great. He was good old Mongo. He's just nuts. They're
gonna do Celebrity Hall of Fame. They ought to put Mongo in. Since WWE always likes to have a celebrity spot, why not Mongo?
He was great. I loved him as a horseman. I know people, they're like, well, his in-ring work, and I see it kind of good. And yeah, he wasn't great as an in-ring performer at certain points. He understood what to do.
Exactly.
And also at the same time, as a personality, he was fucking fantastic. Like, he had enough charisma where it was just like, okay, yeah, I buy this. I'm good with this. And the fact, too, that, like, with you come out and you got a Super Bowl ring, which to shoot, and you're also not only as a Super Bowl ring, but of probably, in my opinion, the greatest defense in NFL history. That's legitimacy you cannot buy anywhere else. Like, that automatically puts you in an upper echelon of just like, yeah, I'm not screwing with this guy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And fans loved him.
Mongo deserves that spot. He does.
Yeah, and if you listen to the audience reactions to him over the years in WCW, he got good reactions all the way into like 98, 97, 98. The fans were into him. I mean, sure, they turned on him eventually, but you know what? It's wrestling. That does tend to happen. So he did well.
He throws a better punch than Buddy Ryan did to Kevin Gilbride that one time on Monday Night
Holy
Football.
moly!
But
I watched a video about that today. Believe it or not, I'd forgotten about that with the Houston Oilers. Oh, like, Jesus! But you know, and also look at who's at ringside. You know, Nancy, Liz,
Keenan.
Rain, Savage.
Yeah,
they're all gone.
Yeah, it's
and
very depressing.
You look at this rundown of this show. Chris and Kevin are gone. Tenta and Trailer are gone. Ice Train's gone. There's and this was only not even 30 years
Malenko ain't healthy.
So much of this talent's left us.
Couple AEW guys we talked about on shows they've been on that Malenko's on his way out too. Unfortunately, sadly.
Yeah. With the Parkinson's, I've seen Dean a couple of times backstage at shows, and you know he's in a rough place.
Yeah,
that's sad. But then again, it's been 30 years. This is next year. Will be 30 years.
Yeah, everyone gets old eventually, right?
Yeah. Hell, what are you trying to say?
Still going. Jesus.
I turned 40. I can feel it.
Oh, you're breaking my heart. God, I've got shoes that are 40 years old.
Fair.
We're all 40 plus. We're like,
the other main event.
Like, shut up.
Yeah, killing me.
I don't want to hear it.
Now the other main event is the Giant versus Lex Luger, and it feels like to me, while the match is fine in its own right,
we skipped over something.
Oh, we skipped over NWO.
We skipped over Hall and Nash getting
interviewed
interviewed by
cover that.
Eric Bischoff. Were you thought of at that point, Scott, to maybe, maybe Scott will take this spot. Maybe we don't have to do it with Eric. Or was Eric just like, no, this is what I'm doing?
No, because they wanted it to get over, number one. And, but no, not at all. But I remember when that happened. And, you know, I'll tell you the truth. I talked earlier about working the locker room and working the boys. Nobody knew where this was going.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody knew that Hulk was going to be the third man and all of that. And certainly nobody knew that Eric was the brains behind the outfit. We knew that it was Eric's idea, obviously. We knew that. But we didn't know that Eric was going to be part of it. So when Kevin and Scott, and I think it was Kevin that actually did it, power bombed him through the stage. I was like, okay, well, that seals that. Eric's done. Eric's dead. Not literally, but, as a character in this angle, Eric's gone. So Eric, we were thinking like, okay, well, Eric sacrificed himself, took the huge bump just to get the angle over. Good for Eric. Let's see what happens next. And so when Eric came in as like the brains behind the NWO, which was after Hulk was the third guy, which is Bash at the Beach in Daytona. That was amazing. It was a hell of a run. I watched that, and I told my wife I was watching something about this a couple of days ago, couple of 3 days ago. I'm like, for a long time, 1970 mark like me, this was a hell of a time to be a fan, and I got to be there for that. That was incredible. But you're right. When Eric took that bump, and we did skip over that with Scott and Kevin, because that was the only time they were on the show. But you knew they had to be, considering what they meant to the company. I think this was still in the time, and you guys can correct me. Was this still in they couldn't work on the show?
Yeah.
There was like a with the WWF, but
Yes.
they could appear,
Yeah,
and
I
they
think
couldn't be Diesel or the bad guy or Big Daddy Cool or whatever.
I suspect.
It was also
I suspect this is why the no compete clauses changed, where you actually couldn't appear on TV at all. I think this is one of the reasons why that no compete clauses today means you can't appear at all, as opposed to you can appear but you can't work. I suspect. I don't know.
They also
Makes sense.
They also couldn't be advertised for the show because they were in Baltimore, which was still considered kind of a Northeast territory.
That's always been a borderline territory to me.
It was a borderline
Also,
territory, which is why they both drew really well there. Like they, I think WCW would play like the arena, and then WWE would play like the Civic Center, and both of them would do like really good business. But
this was a great time for the business in that not only was the in-ring product evolving, but the business itself was evolving.
Yes.
Where you think that, okay, well, they're not going to be able to advertise Scott and Kevin for this show, so the buy rate will suffer, and maybe the house will suffer. But the fans were getting smartened up enough to know in Baltimore and in the entire Mid-Atlantic territory, as well as nationwide on pay-per-view, like, if it's WCW, Scott and Kevin are showing up. We don't need to hear about they got a no compete. Like, they're going to show up. Something's going to happen. I got to watch because they're going to try and fuck Vince by showing up and doing something. And the business was evolving in that avenue.
Remember, Vince McMahon's always act like he's the first big boss in wrestling to be taking bumps, not counting owner wrestlers like Vern Gagne. Vince has always been like, yeah, I'm getting a stunner and shit, But here's Eric Bischoff, 15 months before the famous stunner, getting thrown through a table.
Mm-hmm.
From a stage, no less. Stage tables is even more than a normal table.
I mean, Monsoon did get hit with the Vader bomb back in January.
But he was a gimmick boss. He wasn't a real boss.
Technically,
Eric's supposed to be a real boss.
Technically, he was a boss because he was an owner at that point, because he was still under the Vince payroll of.
Correct.
Yeah, he was still getting paid for life, which is why he was well taken care of.
That was a good moment, too. It was probably one of the best things they did with Vader in WWF, which is a short list of good things they did with Vader in WWF.
Very short list, unfortunately.
We can do that on like a YouTube short. The four of us, like great things they did with Vader. This will take 60 seconds.
That's it.
That and the match, the fatal 4-way match he had. There you go. There's your two things.
That's about it.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, but he piss off Vince. But
Vince didn't like him because he was fat. I mean, the end.
That's what Pritchard said on the show.
And Vader, despite the fact that he was tougher than a $2 steak and a bowling shoe, he could beat anybody in the company really in a shoot fight with precious few exceptions. Vince didn't like him because he looked bad. The end.
Yeah, but then they put him in a semi-shoot match against Shamrock. That was something.
Well, Shamrock's one of the few that could handle him.
Yeah. It's
Blackman, maybe.
Yeah, definitely Blackman.
Yeah.
Blackman could have took him down. Steve Williams, like they're kind of a few.
Steve Williams' tough man thing is kind of busted because of the actual contest, but Vince McMahon has always acted like. I mean, Vince McMahon took that stunner, but Eric Bischoff went to a fucking table and was thrown by Kevin Nash. I hate to
sound this. I hate to be this guy, Dave, but Japan work proved to me that
you're fired. No, I'm kidding.
That was the worst Charlotte Flair I've ever heard.
Oh God! Has there ever been a talent as far as women's wrestling right now where I just sit there and I'm like, just stop?
I love her, but I don't think she's the most professional of the bunch.
No, not right now.
No.
Understatement.
No, she feels like Hogan. I don't. This doesn't work for me, brother. But she's being forced to make it work for her, so she's going to bitch fit all the way through. Allegedly.
It's just hard to also get behind. Like, it's hard for me to get sympathy for someone too. That it's just like, my marriage fell apart. It's like I don't care. It's like I don't care.
And she's had so much work done. She looks like a different person. You almost wish that there was somebody they could find that looked enough like the original Charlotte Flair that they could bring her back like the fake Undertaker and like, I'm the original Charlotte. No, you're not. I'm Charlotte. No, look at the pictures. You know, and then
he was cursed.
Do a run.
She was cursed to be born with Ric Flair's skin. I don't fault her for getting work done because she's got Ric Flair's skin, and that's a strange leathery concoction there.
Built on kamikazes and
that'd be a great name for her.
Tanning booths.
The leathery concoction, Scarlet Flair. That'd be amazing. The leathery concoction.
Leathery concoction.
That's money in the bank. She's gonna have to come up with something. She's 40.
Yeah, she's already part-time. She just doesn't admit to it. She hasn't worked a full-time year since 2019, I think.
Right.
I think I said it to friends the other day. I just said, I'm like, what else does she have going on? I'm like,
yeah, she wrestles. She gets a divorce. She gets work done. She wrestles.
I know, that's it. Like, she's got nothing else going on. It's like,
but that damn match she had with Rhea Ripley was fucking amazing. It was one of the best matches that year.
Yeah, I understand she's a great talent, but it's just like, I appreciate that. I appreciate what she's done for women's wrestling.
Yeah, she only rotates every time she does a moonsault.
No, all I was going to say was I'm just sick of her shit.
I know. I think she's a bit unprofessional. She's one of those. I think in wrestling, like most of the really unprofessional wrestlers also weren't the best workers in the ring. And I think she's one of those weird ones where you can be really unprofessional but can also really work a good match. I mean,
Shawn Michaels.
I mean,
thank you. Exactly what I was thinking.
That's pretty. Yeah, it's a short list. I think we just named it.
Yeah, that's. You might be right.
I mean, maybe what? Shit, I can't think of anybody else.
I mean, I'll say this with Hogan. At least he wasn't that unprofessional in the ring. Like, he always seemed to do.
Unless he's against Vader at Bash in the Beach '95. Holy shit! I mean, look, a fucking joke there. That match still pisses me off, and I like both men as wrestlers, not as people.
It's the headgear, isn't it? It's the headgear.
Oh, the headgear thing pisses me off so much. It's not the only thing, but it pisses me off so much. It's like,
now, which one was this? Which
Bash in the Beach '95. It's the last one right before Vader's out. They're wrestling in a cage, and Hogan barely sells anything from Vader. Puts on his headgear and charges at Vader with him. Mocks Vader, and I'm like, oh my God! Stop! He's already dead.
He's right though. Like, it is maddening to just be out there watching it and just being like, "What are you doing? Like, what is this?"
Yeah, it's.
Why are you doing this?
The Super Brawl match was great. Why couldn't this be? No, it just had to be shit.
I remember back then when that match was being built. Vader had such a reputation, and Hogan was relatively new to WCW. Had been there less than a year, and they're building to him and Vader. That among smart fans, as it were, tape traders, which I was, and I still claim to be, that the issue was Vader's going to kill him.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, this is going to turn into a shoot because Vader's a tough guy. And he's worked Japan, and Hogan's an asshole, and doesn't know how to fight, much less work. And Vader's going to kill him. And there was a huge portion of the buy rate for that pay-per-view. I guarantee you that thought there was going to be a shoot, and Hogan was leaving in an ambulance for real.
Yes.
Yeah.
you could tell the audience in that at that show when Hogan hit him with the clothesline and Vader took his mask off and he no-sold it.
Yep.
And it was like 90% of the building was cheering for Vader. It was like at that point, Hogan is just like, at that point, he had fucked up. Like at that point, it was like the change had kind of just been made of, okay, this is no longer working anymore. They want like the more edgier type monster heel. This isn't like Kamala in 1986.
Yeah.
Vader in 1995. Things are different. People now are gravitated to this guy because he can do cool shit where he's not moving around like a Clydesdale. Like,
we wait until we get to WWF for him to be working slow.
Vader was the most terrifying wrestler I had ever seen. And like I had just up at 1993, because I had gotten into the industry in like 90, 91. And Undertaker never terrified me. Vader terrified the shit out of me.
You watch him get a guy in a corner, and it's like he's trying to murder that guy. Even guys like freaking Bulldog, because he wrestled both. I think both the Clash and the pay-per-view match with Bulldog ended in like non-finishes or DQs or whatever. But they were still great because Vader just like murdered him for like 10 minutes in each case.
Then the Cactus Jack matches. My God.
Yeah, about some murder in there. Speaking of big men that can work, though, this is the Giant at a time when he could still do a really good drop kick. I don't remember him doing a drop kick in that match, but it's that
and a stinger
frame.
splash.
Yeah, I mean the dude. He's probably there was probably about a 18-month period there where the Giant was probably the best working big man in the business. Maybe.
I
don't disagree with that because there were very few that were. Well, there was nobody that was his size.
Yeah,
but very few that were even close, and he was outstanding. It wasn't like he won by default. He was just really good.
Yeah, and he was green, and he was good too. Because
that's what I was gonna say. He was green at that point still too.
He was green but good. It's one of those weird. It's one of those weird things that happens once in a great while in wrestling. You get someone who's clearly green, and you can see it, but boy, he can really get locked in. He can be great.
Nobody had told him what not to do yet.
Wow, that's excellent.
He was still doing the things that, like, you shouldn't be doing this, but it looks cool.
It looked cool when he did a drop kick. I think Vince was wrong about that kind of thing.
Yeah, but you look at him now, and also the fact, too, that
you're going to do a drop kick today.
Well, but also extended his career another 15, 20 years anyway.
Yeah, I know. There's a certain point when you got to stop.
Exactly.
Rey Mysterio doesn't fly like he used to, and that's the only reason he's got to this point. He's still great, but there's points when you got to stop.
And you also just got to stop taking risks. I mean, as much as I've crapped on Lex Luger throughout his career, and at certain points,
WCW Luger is a whole different ballpark than
different. In WWE, it's like where that was the time where it was just like, but his NWA and WCW stuff.
Vince was like, hey, you had explosive power that made you famous where you're a big muscle man and you charge across the ring with that big war scream that everybody loves and the audience reacts to. Don't do that. Slowly walk over and plottedly punch somebody instead. And maybe yes, that will sell us tickets. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree fully that back in the day, and again, I talked about it earlier, this period between 93 and 98, what's that, 5 years? Those 5 years, the business evolved, not so much WCW and WWE and ECW and whatever was left. The business, the perception of the fans, what they were seeing, everything changed.
Even in New Japan,
incredibly in such a short period of time that you could go from whatever the hell that thing was, the Dungeon of Doom with Kevin and it's not hot and all that.
It's not hot.
To the guys using their real names and having, there was no more Goon or, TL Hopper and all that. That was all gone. That was like 5 years. And this change,
we went from plumbers to porn
time was
stars.
so fun for that.
Yeah, we went from plumbers to porn stars on WWF.
The Giants' career could have ended the following the previous October on the roof of Cobo Hall.
Cobo in Detroit,
the night he dry humped his way into championship gold. The fucking Yeti.
The Yeti!
Wasn't that
you fucking kidding me? Really?
Or wasn't the Yeti Ottman, I think?
That was
Fred
Reese.
Ottman?
No, that was
Reese.
That was Ron Reese.
Yeah.
Fred Ottman was Shockmaster.
Oh, yeah. See?
Sid
Reese,
was the only one who did his job in that whole fucking segment.
Which was Dry Hump Hogan.
Wow.
I was talking about Shockmaster, but okay.
Oh. Yeah, the Shockmaster. This is what real quick. When the Shockmaster fell on his ass, I heard the wrestler say, "He fell on his ass."
He fell on his
everybody else
ass.
is kind of losing their shit. And then Sid Vicious is like, he just starts promoing. He's
the only one who did his job in that whole segment.
He's the only one who does it.
Everybody else is just like, oh god. Flair.
It was Dave Boy that said he fell on his arse, and then it was Flair that said, oh God, I told you. And instead of those two, Sid, who I love Sid, and God rest his soul, may he rest in peace, not necessarily known as the smartest guy in the business, he's the one that stayed in character.
Yeah. I always loved him for that.
Of all people, Booker and Stevie were out there too. They didn't say anything. But
Booker had his head in his face in his hands.
His mind. Flair lost his mind. Booker and Stevie clammed up. Sting clammed up.
And Ventura's laughing if you listen to the commentary after the show, or after the spot, after the segment. Ventura's laughing his ass off.
Sure. I would have too.
As he should have. As he should have.
Yeah.
And if you listen, it takes Ole for fucking ever to start cutting the promo on the mic from backstage because he's dying laughing. And this is Ole, the biggest asshole in the history of the sport, and he's supposed to cut the promo,
saying
and
something.
he can't because he's falling apart laughing.
Yeah, good old Sid though. Maybe I always will argue that Sid was underrated. He wasn't, and according to Shawn Michaels, interview with Shawn Michaels gave in 2000, one of those rare interviews where he actually wasn't with the company at all. He said he liked working with Sid because Sid said, "Look, there's a lot I don't know what to do, and I'll just trust you. You tell me what to do out there."
Sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sid is underrated. I think he was unfairly maligned by a lot of people, including Pritchard.
No, I actually like Sid. I think that he's probably the greatest squash match wrestler of all time. Every time you see him, just he goes out there and he does his job and choke slam powerbomb. That's all you need to do, okay? So it's like
great.
I'll get him in there. Like I'll always book him because I book him at like my opener or like at the second or third of the match. Like I'm just like to get people back into the show. I'm just like I'm gonna have him kill somebody for 20 seconds.
I remember Kevin Nash bitching on the kayfabe commentaries about how Sid broke his elbow. Sid broke his elbow on that powerbomb in '95. Yeah. But I may not be a wrestler, but I'm pretty sure that he could have I'm pretty sure that Kevin Nash had full control of his arms and could have just had his elbow not in that exact spot. So I don't really think it was fair to blame Sid for that. I mean, yeah, Mabel dropping his big fat ass on Diesel's back at SummerSlam. Fair dues to Kevin Nash to be pissed about that, but I feel like Kevin could have just moved his arm. That's not really Sid's fault.
Probably, yeah.
No, the powerbomb I don't think was on. The elbow thing shouldn't have been on Sid. I do agree, though, that the Mabel thing was.
Yeah, he dropped his
clear
500 pounds on the smallest somebody's back. You're going to do something after. It's going to do something.
I think Kevin said it best when he just said, if you hurt a Samoan, like he's like, he hurt me, then he hurts Taker, and then he hurts a Samoan. He's like, do you know how hard you have to work to hurt a Samoan?
Yeah.
He's like, do you know how hard you have to work to do that?
Taker said on his podcast it was the straw that broke the camel's back when he got terminated was at the Royal Rumble when he broke. Let's see, it was one of the Godwins. It wasn't Phineas. It was Henry O. Godwin, the other guy. When he heard Mark Canterbury, I think that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, where the back office was like, "Fuck this guy."
Well, as they should have, because it was just, but also it was a terrible decision to even put him in that spot, because it's like, you're going to make him fucking heel and you're going to make him beat all these guys in this tournament? Oh, he's going to go up against Diesel. This isn't 1986.
Yeah, we got
this isn't how you get your baby face over anymore.
And you needed somebody, plus you needed somebody who was better. Honestly, if you take the Giant, since we were talking about the Giant a minute ago, and you put him in the same booking in '95 at the King of the Ring, it would have worked better. It would have worked better because the Giant was just that much better than Mabel in every way as a big man. So if you did the same booking, at least it would have had a better result, and he wouldn't have dropped his big ass into Kevin Nash's back at SummerSlam too, because that wasn't what he did. So it really is. Part of it really is just Mabel sucked, and he hurt people because he sucked that much.
Oh, he was so bad.
I agree with that. I do think for Sid, one of the great, and this may not have lasted long, but I think one of the great missed opportunities would have been when the Roadies had broken in and they were doing NWA and AWA at the same time, and then hitting Florida, every now and then. That to have Sid, who was working underneath after Jeff Van Camp, he was working as Lord Humongous, which was another Mad Max character. To have
leave the fuel.
Yeah, exactly. To have Sid as Lord Humongous come in as like a third member of the Legion of Doom with Paul Ellering, and let him learn, a little more how to work that style instead of just throwing him in without the hood, without the gimmick, and you're a big guy, go kill people. There's a little more to it than that. And if he had Paul Ellering and the Roadies with maybe 2.5 years under their belt, who were still hardly, Steamboat and Thez, for God's sakes, but they knew what they were doing by that point, that would have helped Sid a lot. But as it was, it took him another 5 or 6 years, like you're talking about with Sean, that, tell me what to do.
I think he really started to get good when he was working with Sean.
Oh, well, perfect example was that Survivor Series in '96, when that entire Madison Square Garden audience was completely going for Sid against Shawn Michaels. When he won the title, that place went nuts. I'm like, oh my God.
That was
this is the wrong reaction.
96 was Sid's best year, but it was Sid's best year. He had that great entrance, the cool thing with the whole
How about 5 months? Because he pretty much came in July.
Okay,
and then for
it was the best 5 months of his career. They had the Sid thing that came down that lit up you could call it a sparkler if you want to be mean, but it was like spelled his name. And in all fairness, that might be lame now, but that's cool in '96. I mean, after that, my next favorite moment for Sid's career is that match where him and Scott Steiner basically almost murder each other in like '98, and that was a fucking ugly ass match in the best way possible.
Sid in ECW is also underrated.
I haven't seen those. I haven't seen that part of ECW.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah, but I think as far as Luger world title matches go, I think the Giant and Luger, this particular match, is probably one of the most forgotten world title matches in wrestling, just because it is the last world title match before Hogan joins the NWO, and it just makes it feel so irrelevant. And it's not because the match was bad. The match is fine for what it is, but it just feels like it doesn't matter, because what's going to happen next month is going to make is going to make Hogan the champion the month after, and then you're just going to, and fans are going to forget that this match even happened, and that's what happened.
I would like to think that was the plan all along, but I know better. What match can we put on Great American Bash that's got world title on it and got a belt and got our big stars in it that nobody will remember because we're doing something different. We're resetting everything. We're rebooting the company next month. I would like to think that's what they thought, but they didn't. They thought this was the right match to go with at the time.
Well, who would you go with to wrestle the Giant if you didn't go with Luger and you weren't going to have Hogan on the show? It's kind of a tough call.
It was
all they had.
Because he beat Sting the previous month.
If you don't want Giant to lose the title, then you need someone who can lose to the Giant without being damaged, and that's Luger is easily can lose to the Giant without being damaged at that point in his career, in my opinion.
Right, I agree fully, and it was like, what match can they do that will have absolutely zero consequence that will be forgotten the next morning?
Yeah,
and this was it, and because everybody was going to be talking about Eric getting powerbombed through the table, Mongo joining the Horsemen, how great.
Maybe that Mysterio match.
Yeah. Dean Gray Jr. This match was an afterthought. It was the concession stand match.
Yeah, I mean, well, like I said, it was fine because Luger in WCW was the better version anyway. But as soon as we end the show tonight, we'll probably forget about it.
It was weird for him at the entrance when he came out and he checked on Eric. Like, a part of me was thinking he was going down there and being like, "So can I get that bonus now since it's been 6 months?" I came in at a reduced rate in September. Like, can we talk about that money now? And he's just like, "Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to sell this." Because it was such a weird contrast because 3 months earlier there was one. I think 3 months earlier he got involved in a match. I think it was the uncensored match between Sting and Booker T, because he was tag team champion with Sting, but Booker T was standing in for him, and they went against the Road Warriors. So I think it was the Chicago Street Fight or whatever it was.
I like that match. A good match for that show.
And they were backstage, and Luger is like prepping himself. He's like in a mirror, and he's just like he's posing and all this stuff. And then somebody touches him, and then he just starts kicking the shit out of the guy. And so you go from that, where 3 months later he's starting to now turn into a babyface. And also at the same time, he's a double champion, trying to be a triple champion because he's the tag team champion and then the television champion. And now all of a sudden, he's going for the world title. And here he is, and he's actually starting to become a convincing babyface almost overnight. And setting the stage for the next year plus, where he's going to be chasing Hogan and beating Hogan on Nitro the following August.
God, they missed the boat by not running with that for a month or two at least. Fuck.
Well, yeah, they needed something to sell the Travis Tritt concert before Rhode Wild. So,
I mean, I get it. I mean, you don't want to fuck with the Sting Hogan match, but shit.
Well, I think they had to do the Luger thing because the Luger was so hot.
Yeah.
At that point, it's like you had to give him the belt. And
it was
but it was only 5 days. It's like, oh.
I mean, he got a better run than Kane.
That's true. Or Hydrox Taker, as I call him.
Wow.
What?
So, Scott, what did you think of the? What did you think of the show?
Can I tell you a quick Kane Taker story?
Yeah,
sure.
When I might have told you guys this the last time we did the show.
They're not really brothers? Oh, no.
Well, yeah. So when we go to Tacoma to do the double shot with Raw and SmackDown, and that was the aborted thing with me and Arn and
one night in Tacoma, yeah.
So we're at the building, and they have the catering and all that. And so everybody's hanging out in catering, and the WCW folks that were there all kind of hung out together. And we were trying to find our way. And so we, went into catering, and we were just kind of trying to find ways to make the gears fit. And we would sit with the WWE guys. And I sat at a table with Stacy Keibler. And I remember who was with us. Maybe, I don't know, Kidman, whoever was there. And so we're sitting there, and Glenn Jacobs, a nice guy, comes and sits with us. And we've all got, grapefruit juice and a thing of grilled chicken, whatever. And so he comes down and sits with us. I'm sitting next to Stace, and Glenn sits down next to the other side of Stace. And she introduces herself. I introduce myself. And she goes, she says, "So how's Sarah?" And Glenn goes, "That's my brother's wife," and gets his plate and walks off.
Damn.
And I'm just like rolling my eyes like, that could not have gone worse.
You just be glad you weren't the one who said it, right?
Oh my God. If
least it
there's
wasn't
ever
me.
been like kismet in the world, I was like, well, that was in the air, but Stacy said it, so thank God, because I was thinking the exact same thing.
I liked how he said that's my brother's wife, though, because they kind of adopted each other as brothers. Maybe not be brothers, but I always, as far as neat things in the business, that's one of them. The fact that they treat each other as brothers to this day.
Right. But if you're ever going to you're ever not going to hear that bullshit, sitting at catering in Tacoma would be the place.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Stace. She was wonderful. She was a nice lady, and I assume still is. And she was only trying to, make conversation, but that's the way it
Failing
goes.
hilariously.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just sitting there, you're like,
Oh, my God.
I already feel a lot of places is.
Seriously.
We got, as far as licensed teams goes, getting She's Got Legs for her was a fucking brilliant move.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to give them credit for that. They understood of just like, we need
understood
to get
the
the assignment
assignment.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
heard,
hit it out of the park on that one.
I don't know if it was true or not, but I remember they used to put over in commentary how they had insured her legs. They got insurance policy out on each of her legs. I was like,
Oh yeah,
okay.
I think they did. They did say that on TV.
I don't know if that's a work or a shoot, but I think it was pretty clever to say.
Yeah. I don't know either. I would imagine it's a work, but it is a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, George Clooney. Hey, he was just like, "Hi, I'm
Every
George
time
Clooney."
Every time they have a concert out there on WWE, if Stacy Keibler's there, anywhere, dancing, being next to the singer, whatever, the lead singer has a hard time paying attention to what he's doing because he's watching her. Like, like with the Union doing Raw theme. He was singing, and then Stacy Keibler does her special little dance in the middle of it, and he's like going from singing, he's like, oh, there's something over there. He just has to fight everything in his power. He was fighting a battle that he was losing, not staring at Stacy Keibler while trying to sing a song.
Exactly.
The biggest bunch of bullshit that WCW ever tried to tell anybody was the fact that she was going to marry David Flair. That is still the biggest con in the history of this industry.
Yeah.
My God.
Didn't she also have didn't they also work her with Kidman, or was that... No, that was
Tori.
the Tori Wilson.
That was Tori, yeah.
And that was actually a shoot.
Tori Wilson and Kidman?
Yeah.
Cool.
For a while, yeah.
Lucky Kidman.
Yeah, Kidman's terrific.
Hell yeah. Want to be Kidman.
I think David and Stacy were, that was straight out of Central Casting.
Yeah. He had a great fucking theme in late WCW that kind of, it's hard to describe, but it's kind of like, it was kind of like this low industrial, like almost like it's hard to describe, but it was like really, really worked for him.
Good.
You know how to Kidman?
Yeah, Kidman's theme.
Yeah, that was a really good one. Yeah.
Sorry.
You know who had a great theme? The
Who?
Wall. The Wall, dude.
The Wall
That's
is
the
just
Wall,
a great.
brother.
The Wall is just a great name. How are you going to climb the wall? No.
Well, it is getting late, and I think I don't want to keep
Well,
our guests any longer than we should.
did you want to give a final thought on the Great American Bash before you tapped out for the night? Or not tapped, but signed out?
You talking to me? So
Yeah.
Scott?
Yes, Scott.
Well, I think it was a fantastic show.
It really was.
I mean, I don't know how I didn't go back and look at the Wrestling Observers or the torches from in the day, but I can't imagine this was anything but a thumbs up show. It was wonderful. It was fun to watch again. But it was, in hindsight, more. Oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Had more impact. Was more impactful than it was entertaining. Because you get the impression now that you can look back on it.
Great point.
Even 4 or 5 months after, much less almost 30 years after, that within a month the business made a huge change, and within 6 months had made a complete wholesale 180. And this was kind of like the last of the old school WCW, even WWF shows that, right through that summer of '96, maybe beginning with this and ending with the Bash at the Beach and then with SummerSlam. That's when the business changed, was that summer of '96.
It's a great point, Scott.
This kind of lit the fuse.
You felt it.
No, it's a great point, Scott. Really is.
Well, is there anything you want to put over or talk about before you close out for the night? Whether it's this or whether it's related to this show or anything else? Scott?
Not me. I'm just waiting until the next time we can do this and give me an excuse to watch an old WCW show.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll get you soon here in a month or here in a couple months. We'll plan something out. I got some people that want on next month, so it definitely won't be then. But here,
I feel like we should be
sure.
I feel like we should be friends on social media, Scott. If you have anything like Facebook or things like that,
I got nothing. I got zero.
I talk to him by text. It's great.
Ah, okay.
I don't even text people.
I used to have it, and then I realized I can't lose any more hair. So
I respect that choice, and I completely understand it.
Yeah,
completely understand it.
Well,
but just text me. You know where to find me.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, we want you to come back. You're great as always.
Thanks, guys. It was a lot of fun. It always is.
All right.
All right.
Have a good night.
Thanks again, Scott. Have a great night.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Thanks, guys.